Good evening, everybody, and welcome. It is 5 o'clock. We're going to start our work session today, and I am very excited about the work session today. I always like hearing from students. I'm a high school teacher in my real job, so I always like listening to students. Not that adults aren't interesting to listen to, but I prefer students because I do the job that I do. So in our discussions as a board in the past, we've really asked to have student voice in the discussions that we're doing, but we don't want student voice in the way that's tokenizing or just bringing you in to show off and then sending you away. We want student voice that's real, that's happening in your schools, the pluses, the minuses, the good, the bad, the ugly. I think that's a really important part. Like a lot of times as school board directors, I feel like, at least for me, I feel like a lot of what we see is kind of like a dog and pony show, and I like hearing from students because you all are always real. So I always appreciate that, and I'm really excited to hear what you all have to say today. But I guess I'm off script, but that's okay. But I have to announce that Director Clark is absent and excused this evening. He's out. And then I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Vela for introductions.
Thank you, President Beno. And so your statement is great because that's what you're going to hear today from our students. So I first want to take the time to officially welcome our students and our staff and our parents. Thank you for being here today, and thank you to our board for sharing this space with our students today. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it right over to Ms. Simone Hamilton, our Director of Equity and Strategic Engagement. Ms. Hamilton.
Awesome. Thank you, Superintendent Vela. Good evening, members of the board. Before we start, I just want to ask if we can all in the space just take one big deep breath in and then breathe out. Let it go. We're going to have a really good time tonight. There's a lot of really exciting stuff to share. And I know there's a lot of nerves and anxiety in this space, but it's all good. And it's coming from a place of having a lot to talk about and a lot to share, but then also realizing that we've got truncated time. So I'm going to jump right in. First, I just want to welcome everybody. Some faces are familiar, some faces are new. We're excited to be back. It's been a year since we were here last, and a lot has happened. And you're going to learn a lot about what these young people have been doing and how busy they've been in developing their leadership and the stuff they've been doing at their schools. I also want to just start by thanking a lot of the behind-the-scenes work that's gone into this. It's not just myself and Tierra. There's been a whole team of people working on this. So first I want to shout out Tierra Frost, Duran Woods, if you could please raise your hand for us to see. Yep, Duran, Sherry Simpson, Desiree Monzingo, Rochelle Seaton Garcia, Todd Wemeyer, he can't be here, but he's also been a really big part of this, and then Susie Whitlock. I think she's, maybe. I thought she was in here for a second. She was. And then also another big shout out to our principals. So a big part of this was in partnership with principals, helping we needed their support to find the space and the time and to gather students. And then also a lot of the projects they worked on needed principal buy-in. It needed their partnership to see it through to the end. So shout out to Principal Ernst, who's here in the back, from Kent Ridge, Principal Radford, from Kent Meridian, Principal Nip from Kent Laboratory Academy, Principal Mauer from Kent Lake, and then last but not least, Dr. Ketover from Kentwood. So without further ado, I'm gonna kind of go through what it's gonna look like today. Tierra's gonna give a brief overview of how they approached the work this year. Then you're gonna hear from each of the schools back to back, and then there'll be a moment and an opportunity for board directors to offer some kind of feedback and comments. But really what we want is to move to the last part, which is where we have more of a dialogue about opportunities and where future partnerships and growth can be in the work that we're doing here today. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Tierra.
Touch that?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everybody. First I just want to say I appreciate all the students who came, and also I want to shout out all the students who could not come. There's a lot more students who are on these design teams who just have so much going on at this time of the year. You know, games, performances, all different types of tests and everything. And so I know it's a lot for y'all to be here with all that, and then also representing for all of them, because a lot of the information that's going to be shared is also from students who aren't here as well. So I just want to name that. And thank you to everybody who has been supportive through this process with me as well. And yeah. So last year, we kind of did some listening sessions at all of the high schools. As you guys know, when we were here, we spoke to those. It started out as like a listening session around safety, and then it kind of transformed to something more because the students had a lot to share, which was amazing. And so with that information that we got from them in the listening session, and really their peers, because they orchestrated the listening session to get the feedback from their peers, one of the key things that they kept saying was like, we feel like adults are hearing us, but they don't really do anything. We keep saying the same things, but we're not really seeing change. And obviously, we all know change takes time in different ways depending on the thing. But we really wanted them to feel like they were seeing some sort of change this year, and that they were working towards something, especially when they're, calling out certain things, like what does it look like to kind of step into a leadership to address the things that you have concerns around. Yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Each team kind of focused on different things. Some students focused on student wellness, being mental health was a big thing last year. It was something students spoke to a lot. And then other schools had conversations with their teachers and staff around student-staff relationships. And so you guys are going to hear different types of projects, experiences, activities, events that the students kind of put together. And yeah, I was really proud to see the work that they did. It was really, really, really nice. So with that being said, I'm going to kick it off to my my old stomping grounds, the Royals.
So the people that helped make this possible was Adrian Davis, Aisha, Marvin,
Fatima, Dunya, and Fatima.
Some things we learned. Engagement. Power of social media in getting peers to be involved in events and activities. An environment. Room and environment affect students' motivation and ultimate success of a set goal.
Connection. We believe building relationship among team members is important to a project's success, whether it's inside of school or outside. Satisfaction. When planning the event, we were nervous about how the event will turn out. But finally, when the event happened, it went really great. Our takeaways. Many students who attended my event that I put in the library, we learned from them that they loved the option of having different type of games or playing different type of games in the library. Some of those games were puzzles, jigsaw, Uno. They were all well received by the students.
Who was involved? Design team students, KM student body, admin, staff, and the community.
Our goal. During second semester, everyone was stressed about grades, tests, and other responsibilities. Our goal was to help these students relieve their stress.
Takeaways and impact.
Okay, I'll just go to this one. Room and environment affects the success of production. Meeting in a space that feels safe, spacious, and interesting helps the students work more better.
There is a lot of value in stepping out of your comfort zone to be more social with your peers. It allows students to collaborate and execute goals. More community building and amongst peers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, it's Kent Lake. Our members that helped our design team were Jackson, Abiel, Pafla, me, Eveline, Carlos, Nemo, Cade, and my great friend Melody. In our school listening sessions, we spoke about bathrooms. That's the first thing that we learned. We concluded that the problems are bathrooms are closed, they're crowded, students are smoking, they're fighting, and they're skipping. And to combat this, we want bathrooms to be more accessible by having more bathrooms open, more peer-based environment, like enforcement, and recognizing that these bathrooms are being used for a multitude of reasons. And to combat that, next year we're thinking of environmental sensors and e-hall pass. And this further contributes to the use of bathrooms because some people use it for mental health or a brain break or for anxiety. And our second thing is mental health. Our problem is that there is an increase of mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, and most of all, negativity towards each other. For this, our main goal was to make mental health resources more accessible to every student. And next year, we decided to explore more on the power of students within, leading other students within SEL, a place for kids to go for mental health support rather than a bathroom, like a Zen room, and to have an assembly in future years that are similar to breaking down walls. And then we discussed about bullying behaviors, and our problem that we also discussed about was how staff is inconsistent with how they respond when a student or students are being disrespectful to each other, and how there is a disconnection to the response of that. We discussed that department leaders, we actually went to a building leadership team meeting to discuss these issues, and we did share feedback and discussion, they did too. And we decided that there should be accountability from teachers when something happens, and to have building scenarios for staff training around equity, and to see the disrespectful behavior be addressed. Because when we ignore these harmful messages that other students are sending to each other and speaking to each other, we then tell everyone else that this is okay, that this behavior is allowed in our schools, which it shouldn't be. And then finally, partnerships. How do we want this to continue? Interventions and solutions that we think that there has to be a collaboration between teachers, admin, students, and by doing so, we decided that we should continue listening sessions and serve as advisory to support work that needs to continue or begin in school and engage more students who are struggling to have their voice heard. And additional topics that our team would like to discuss were discussions around 504, wanting to provide more feedback with teachers and all that. Thank you.
They're not done. They're not done.
So, for inquiry and action, we were talking about the bathrooms. So we did listening sessions with representative students from Kent Lake who got together and responded to the questions about the bathrooms. The people that were involved were the design team members and the student body. The purpose is to gain understanding of how the bathrooms were being used and to find solutions to the problems. So I designed this poster. It's about mental health, and it has a QR code in the corner for anyone that feels like they need help or have questions. So yeah, and we were trying to come up with a common design, common colors, and it increases access and awareness of resources for mental health, bullying and harassment. We attended building leadership team meetings to discuss and share common scenarios that the students experience and the impact of how a teacher chooses to respond.
And our takeaways and impact were to commit to regular listening sessions with students to monitor progress, as we said before, and for Principal Advisory Council. We also discussed that we need to expand our reach and the students that we engaged with during this process to ensure that students who are struggling do have their voice heard.
And we have the desire to increase student knowledge of the 504 plans, and we want to make sure that the teachers are also aware of this plan. And we also want to increase the involvement of parents in MTSS teams, equity teams, and coffees with the principal, and having students make sure that their parents are aware of these opportunities. Thank you.
Hi, we are Kentwood High School, and the members of our student design team include Maya Hathaway, Alyssa Yancey, and Lydia Pineda. And then the three people who are presenting to you today are myself, Janice Clemens, Amaya Jones, and Cal Lee.
So some things that we learned were having conversations with faculty gave us the opportunity to learn more about their experiences, and it was a chance to step into their shoes and listen to their unheard perspectives. There were a lot of emotions that were shared as well that gave us the chance to see that they are also human, which was very nice to see.
Another thing that we learned was that even though we were going into this looking specifically into student and faculty relationships, the questions that we were asking originally, they left a lot of room for people to go off on little rabbit trails or start talking about something that we weren't really looking for in our data set. So we learned how to be very intentional about the questions that we did end up asking them to make sure that our responses gave us the data that we were looking for.
We also saw the importance of taking note on this discussion to capture main ideas and look back to them, because some important thoughts can be forgotten or accidentally brushed over.
We also learned the importance of prioritizing time to speak with teachers so we could really hear their point of view, because it was important for us to let them know that they could speak freely about what they thought of our conversation so we could really see what they were seeing.
So our activity was holding listening sessions with our entire teacher and staff group at Kentwood High School. So we went to one of the faculty meetings after school on a Wednesday, like today. And we went up and presented to them that we were looking to see how they felt about student and faculty relationships, how they've been, how they are now, what they're looking for in the future. And so that was sort of the questions that we asked them in our circles. Again, they were very intentional, just because we wanted to understand their perspective, since a lot of the times we hear what students think that the teacher should be doing for them every single day. It's what should they be doing for me, instead of seeing what the teachers think that we should be doing for them. And then we also reminded them that we're not looking for equality with our faculty and student relationships. We're not looking for them all to be the same. Rather, we're looking for equity and for people to be themselves, because all students are different, just like all staff members are different. So different people are going to click with different people.
We use the circles to gain dialogue on how relationships between students and faculty can be stronger, and how positive community and culture can be influenced at Kentwood. And then some takeaways are, through this project, it was validated how we thought there was a need for staff and students to hear each other's perspectives and truths without authorical and hierarchical conditions getting in the way.
We also thought that this quote, "To define is to limit," was a good quote that kind of encompassed everything that we did here, talking about how defining what student and faculty relationships should be like prevents people from being able to kind of step out of that box of what they used to be or what they were like when our teachers and our faculty members were in high school. It's very, very different now, especially after COVID. So we wanted to make sure that we had a bit of an open mind and let our teachers and staff know that we're looking for open-mindedness in this process.
We also noticed how impactful in-the-moment leadership was, and how letting go of the need for perfection and allowing that in-the-moment environment guides what was already prepared to happen in a smooth manner.
We saw the importance of letting the teachers know that we wanted to hear their real thoughts and to not be afraid to let them know that they can tell us exactly what they saw in the situation.
And the last thing that we kind of saw was that not only staff and teachers, but the student ideas of what we wanted change to look like in our school were very similar, if not the same. So at this point, we're just working on a way to creatively and effectively make this change happen, because there's a lot of stuff that gets lost in translation from students' perspective to teacher and faculty perspective. And so part of what we were doing here with this process was creating a forum where we can annually come and talk to the teachers with our student design team members about whatever the topic may be that is kind of pressing on our minds that year, just so that we can have a more formal way to have these kinds of conversations and actually make sure that they are effective, as opposed to them being very informal and kind of not really going anywhere like they have been in the past.
You need the mic, mister. I'll grab that one, go closer to you. Yeah, there you go.
Hello, our names are Mr. Juan, Wasim, Caden, Kadir, Shahan, and Lydia, and we represent Kent Laboratory Academy.
Alright, so, well, a lot of our peers wanted us for school to provide field trips, but students in our school want more opportunities for field trips for outside of the classroom learning. It was difficult to find issues to resolve because the school does a really good job with attending to students' needs and issues.
The design team was a great opportunity to learn how to communicate better with staff and peers, and it helped us understand other point of views and greater empathy with peers and staff.
Lunch and learn classroom engagement. We held a small group discussion with trusted staff members to review data retrieved from peers around effective classroom engagement strategies. We discussed about student choice, connecting learning to the real world, and self-check-ins. The design team students and admin and staff members were involved. The goal was to retrieve feedback from peers that allowed for the staff and student to build a bridge and work together to address students' needs.
Okay, and then some of the takeaways and impacts were we gained useful feedback for teachers to use and reflect on their engagements with students.
Different students had different needs and experiences in schools. Something one student may dislike could be something another enjoys. The design team work, wait, what? Oh, it was, the design team were working with very open-minded and willing to make the school a better place.
Because of this, KLA Middle School has been encouraged to create an event known as Multicultural Night. We did this because it helps bring KLA and the community together, and because it helps us know one another and helps us remain as a safe community.
The way we structured our team were we broke up into 3 teams. Those 3 teams were the logistic teams, the entertainment teams, and the marketing/advertisement teams.
You are all invited to the multicultural event next week, Thursday, June 1st. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
So hi, my name is Lillian Weatherly,
I'm Solomon Judia.
and then the rest of our team is Jada, Sophie, Ava, Trinity, Logan, Isley, and then Brianna, but they all weren't able to make it tonight.
I'd like to say a special thank you to Miss Patu and Miss Ernst for being great admin to work with. Thank you to Miss Patu for getting my attendance into the attendance ladies. All right, so what did we learn? We learned that students need some type of incentive, whether it's a fun activity or a prize. So what we did was we hung up pictures of iconic duos around the school, and we had students come match them, and if you and a friend could get a pair together, you'd get some candy. And that bowl of candies kind of sparked a conversation about like what we're trying to do to connect our school and community. So candy is good with high schoolers, and provide incentives.
We also learned that through this project, we have to like hold each other accountable to like work together. And so we kind of had to like communicate with each other to get the project done and to make sure that we were all equally like supporting each other and getting our parts done.
To add on to the part about communication, oh yeah, it was great that we had a student-led group instead of a group that's more facilitated by a staff member. And I say that because when you have a student lead the group, it provides more more of a space to be fluid and to like share ideas without that obvious power dynamic between a staff member and a student.
With that power dynamic, we kind of like learned that our school, it's really focused on like the grades and the homework and what the teachers are really focused on rather than what like the students kind of need. And I think that's especially like coming back from COVID and trying to catch up in all like the educational areas rather than the mental health areas that the students might need more than some of those like logistics of like the education part.
So we did a advisory lesson based on things of peer-to-peer connections, fitness and health, affirmations and self-love, love, sleep and mental health, and environmental health. So how we did this lesson was playing a video that our group pre-recorded. And in this video, we had a variety of students in the group. So it wasn't just like two main speakers and random actors doing an action. It was all of the group speaking and doing those actions so we could like establish face-to-face connection with student design leaders. Also, we had a game in our advisory.
Yeah. And so this was mostly run by us, the student design team, and then the community of our school. And so up there on the screen, you can see Sophie and Soham kind of being like the leaders of the video. And then we also had like me and some of the other students, we would go around into the different classrooms and we would have our like advisory cams up so we can make sure everybody was like staying engaged, because we had learned that some teachers weren't actually like recording their videos and like showing them to the students, so it was just kind of like a free period. And so this was able to get all the students and the teachers engaged because they had to like keep an eye out for a camera coming for them. And so we have found that it was really helpful that it was like student ran, because then like the students paid more attention because they were able to connect to us.
We also had, to further explain the game, we had trivia questions at the end that were questions related to the videos that we showed throughout the advisory, and the class that got the most points won a donut party. Do you want to talk about the experience with the staff member?
Oh, yeah. So we kind of learned that through like students and staff that there's not really a strong bond between them, and so that was really shown through like during our advisory we had a teacher accidentally unmic themselves and made kind of a rude comment to us during that, and that was kind of funny because it was like showing even like we tried so hard to like create this video, and that respect like still wasn't like given to us, even though like we had tried so hard to create a good video, you know? So that was interesting. Yeah.
They were added to my notes app. Our end goal of the advisory lesson was to create a space that feels less of a chore and a period that you must attend, and some are fun and fluid, and some where you can learn without being like pressured to learn in a fun way. And that came with the game, which is what I think was the most effective part. Yeah. Oh, in addition to that, our like individual student group, I think was great because Lily and I have crossed paths through like mutual friends, but we became stronger friends through this group. And also there was, I think there was like a couple people that I didn't really talk with, and it was nice to get to know them because I saw like, they're leaders and they actually want to work. So it was nice seeing other leaders in the school.
Yeah. We also wanted to like stay uplifted for each other and like motivate each other to create a change in our school, because we're from all different aspects of the school. We wanted to see a change for like, I want to help you like create a better like community for the school, like for the sports, and like I want to help you like with music, you know. And I think that really like uplifted each other to like work on the project to like make it better for all of us.
This was the first time that I know of that students have led an advisory lesson, and we'd definitely like to have more in the future. I think when we have staff-led lessons, or just like TED Talks to play that are given by staff, I think it feels more boring and more of like students sitting at their tables on their phones or like doing other classwork, and it's just less effective. So it is more effort to have students do stuff, but if we could create a way that we had like different groups of students throughout the year do their own advisory lessons, I think that'd be way more effective than sending out TED Talks to listen to.
I think also like more like I really liked Kentwood, how like Kentwood was able to like talk with their staff. I think that'd be like work really well for KR too, because there's like I think there's like a gap between the KR staff and the KR students. So I think it would be better if the adults were able to listen to us and we could listen to them, so that there's kind of a change, and so that the students can help lead, but also the teachers can like learn from us, but also we learn from them. Cool.
I like that we had I spoke about this earlier too, but I like that we had a different set of people in each little subsection of the video, because at my school I do the morning announcements, and I know it gets boring when you have like, you see me in like every other video, so I like that there was a variety of people in it.
Yeah, thank you for,
Oh,
and we found, sorry, I forgot that part. We found that students wanted to learn more about sleep and mental health when we got our data back, and I think that really shows like what the students want to learn is better for taking time for their sleep and making sure that they're healthy through that, and then also the mental health part, like I touched on before, rather than maybe some of the educational aspects. So yeah, thank you for listening to us.
Thank you.
And I'd like to say one thing, that the Kentwood team would love to help any other school set up the forum that we set up for our school, if you guys would be interested in that.
Well, thank you, everybody who presented. Also, just so proud of you guys. You guys just killed it in here. So, yeah, another round of applause for you guys. Yeah, we're proud parents.
You guys make me miss teaching a little bit.
This is a retired teacher right here. We need to get her back in the classroom. No, but thank you. And so this is an opportunity now, if board directors, if you guys want to just offer any initial comments or feedbacks or just kind of takeaways, and then we'll transition into a more open dialogue where would love to have more space for the students to share more about what's come up for them, maybe some things that you've been inspired or got ideas about, and hearing from others, and hold space for that. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to you, President Benno.
Sounds great. So I'm going to open up to board directors. I love being off script, so yes, let's do this.
I just want to say thank you very much. This format, sitting like this, is the best, because usually when we're sitting up there, it really is not personal, and I appreciate the kids, how you make us proud, really make us proud. And sometimes we forget how the work we do impacts you. So I don't want to get emotional, but it's really touched my heart how I feel that I'm more happier and feel better knowing that you guys are the future leaders. So thank you. I just want to comment when Kentwood, something they said, annually meeting.
Yes.
I would make it more than that, because
Definitely.
you want to get that dialogue more often.
Our idea was that having it at the end of the year would provide, okay, so a little bit of background that we didn't actually say was we sent out an equity survey to the students of our school in around October, and we had about 911 submissions to that.
Nice.
So we took the data from that equity survey and found the top 3 questions that we thought that we wanted to address with the staff based off of what our student body was telling us. And so that's why we're thinking about having it near the end of the year, so that we can use all of that data and have enough time to put that together. But I definitely like the idea of doing it more than once.
Thank you. Thank you. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you for coming, and I appreciate all the family members, the staff, everybody who just sits in the back. This is what happens when the community comes together and does this. So thank you.
Director Hamada?
Well, I'm excited because you're in the room, because there's more energy. You just feel it when you walk in the door, and sometimes I walk in here, I think, oh boy, here we go. To be honest, I'm going to be very honest tonight. And sometimes I feel, what am I doing here, you know? Am I effective? But when I'm with kids of all ages, you know, littles all the way up to high school, it energizes me, because you're our future. And I mean, when we see people around this room sitting at these tables and way beyond that, our kids, when I'm in the classrooms or I see you kids on the sports field or in your plays, you're just terrific. And I want to say, have you been to our schools? Have you gone in the doors? Have you seen what these kids are doing? And quite frankly, you kids have had a lot to deal with, and you're still, still clicking down the road with the pandemic, with all the other stuff that is challenged. Social media is a real challenge, and how to use it for the good and not for some of the stuff that really brings people down. Your issues, all of the issues you're tackling, I'm very excited about that. Again, if there's any way I can help you or come to your school or be involved, I am a marketing person. I did that for part of my career along with communications. But we all the time surveyed our customers and you guys are our customers. So we need to bring you in and see what you guys want to do. So thank you for being here. Thank you for spending the extra time, because I know how busy high school can be. I appreciate that. And all the support staff in this room, and I know it goes way probably beyond the people in this room. Your parents, your teachers, your administrators, thank you, thank you, thank you. This makes the job worthwhile. It makes the hours that I put into this, seeing that we are doing really important stuff. And I am just very excited about the future and to continue this, not just drop it here. So thank you.
Director Markell.
First, I'd like to say you're not our leaders of tomorrow, you're our leaders of today. And thank you very much. And for the adults out there that don't realize that we gotta learn. Like, we just gotta listen, because very much leadership does not come with age. Right? And we know that you guys are our leaders today. I liked very much hearing the scientific method used within here. Sorry, this is me. But it goes so much more than just the one project, right? And just hearing that throughout each of these different projects, which I thought was so interesting, seeing they were all very different. And so I'd be interested just sitting down and chatting and hearing how you came up with all of them and what that looked like. But yet you saw so many similarities throughout a lot of them. Communication, and wouldn't we all do a little bit better if we all just kind of listened to each other with an open heart and an open mind, and accountability. And saw that throughout a lot of these. So these are themes that, while I think that the projects were impressive, the process and the opening the lines of communication and accountability were really what stuck with me. So my last question is, I'd like to find out a time for the June 1st. So let us know when your multicultural night is, and so.
5:30 to 7:30.
What?
5:30 to 7:30.
5:30 to 7:30. I think you're going to have some people there. So, okay, awesome. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time. It is a busy, busy time of year, and it means a lot that you guys took the process to do this and came here tonight with us. Thank you.
I have a couple things. First, I have some questions for each of the schools. So I have, one question, because time is not our friend. But I'm going to start with Kent Ridge. I know that teacher and staff apathy is really challenging, and it kind of hurt my soul to hear that you heard a unkind comment from a staff member while you're really trying to be leaders. So my question is, what's your idea for how you're going to address that, and what are you going to do in your design team to kind of work with teachers so that they have buy-in?
Well, I remember last year we did a listening session with our students, so we went to the students first, where I talked to them about, like, okay, what are some problems you're seeing, and then we, like, brought this to the staff, and we were able to talk with them. And we didn't do it this year because we were focusing mainly on our advisory, so we weren't able to have time to do another listening session. But I think something like that, where we bring the problems to the staff and talk to them about, like, hey, like, these are some things that, like, we should, like, come together on, and, like, join together as, like, a community in KR. I think that'd be really important. So I think that's the way I would want to take it. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, so additionally with my work in ASB and leadership, next year we're planning like a lot more school events like that bring the community together, where staff are like invited to join. And I know that's helped a lot this year because this year we've had so many new events. And I think that has like bettered our relationship with staff, but still not everything, it's not all perfect, so we still have work to do. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to go KLA next. I really liked hearing that your school does a really good job tending to students' needs and issues. I would like to hear more, or someone or a couple people, maybe someone from middle school, someone from the upper school. Like, how does that look like at your school, and how does, what do staff or administrators do to kind of meet student needs or issues?
The teachers at KLA are very good. The staff members are very good. And some people that aren't even teachers, like people like Mrs. Amy, Mr. Butler, they're like, they help around, but they're very good people and they're very open to talk to. Like if I have a problem, they'll always be there for me. They came to one of my, I think, conferences and was supporting me and giving nothing but good feedback. Like the staff there are great. Like I haven't been to a school as good as the staff at KLA. No, not dissing, but yeah.
No, you're being real.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I do want to say thank you, Ms. Frost. She made me very open to do this. You know, I'm not really a good I'm stuttering a lot. So I'm not very good at communicating, but be open that side of me. So I do want to thank you, and Dr. Nip too.
You're great, man.
Awesome, you're amazing. How about someone from the middle school? I'm very curious to hear.
I've noticed throughout my 2 years of being at the school that the teachers have always opened up their own time to help students in need. Last year I was just introduced into middle school, so I was a little nervous when it came to it. And teachers such as Ms. Myers or Mr. Young, Mr. Henry, they opened up their own free time that they had in order to help me and a few other students with after school or maybe during school. A while ago, I started a chess club, which was the first club within that school.
Hey.
And it was teachers that were opening up their own time to supervise me and a few other people that were learning and understanding what chess was.
Awesome, thank you. Kentwood, you're next. I really like hearing that. You said that you liked how the teachers kept it real and they brought their authentic selves, which I always enjoy. So I'm curious, what were some of the things that you heard from teachers that you thought were real that students kind of connected with?
Do you want to go first or do you want to?
I'll go first. So my circle was very open, and again, I think that was with the environment that was set. And I think something that I heard was something that I brought up during presentation is they want students to be aware of the fact that they are humans too, and think that teachers and students need to work together to understand that everybody has like their own story, their own life outside of school, and sometimes people can bring that into the school environment, and some people come in with bad moods, or some people, there's just a variety of different emotions that people come into school with, and it sets different tones, and we want to find ways that we can collaboratively find a middle ground to make it mostly positive. And I think another thing I heard was they want more time to speak, like more time to speak with the students instead of speaking at them.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some key points in my circle.
Okay, so I think that the most direct and honest thing that I heard in my circle was that teachers were acknowledging the fact that sometimes, even though they catch themselves telling students to be respectful and telling students to like cool it and just like calm down a little bit, sometimes teachers have moments where they should probably stop and think to themselves, should I say that? Stop to think to themselves, are we sure that this is how we want to react to the way that they're acting? Because not only are students still kind of growing and developing their manners and stuff after COVID, but just, as she said, we're all people, teachers, staff, students, whatever. So the moments that they have where they choose not to stop for a second, should I say that? They realize that that's something that they need to work on if they want to have relationships with students, because it does go both ways.
All right, Kent Lake, you're next. First of all, this is really awesome. I'm glad that this is all over your school, and I hope the QR code still works and the resources are still there. But my question specifically is, what is your goal about, you got data about what students use bathrooms for, and you had an idea about like a common space or some kind of space for students. What are your next steps for making that more of a reality?
We're hoping to like get a room, like a Zen room, for people. So instead of going to the bathrooms, because it can be crowded in there and it takes up space, that they have a Zen room to calm down if they need a minute instead of in the classroom. Yeah, I guess they just like need a room to calm down.
I remember going to one of the elementary schools with you, Mr. Vela, where they had a Zen room where students could go in, do their thing, and leave. And I was just like, wow, every school should have one of these. And so to hear you all talk about something similar is really great.
They may not call them that, but
Yeah.
they have spaces for kids that they can go to, they feel safe in, or places where they know that they will not be judged or feel like they belong.
Yeah, that's awesome. Love hearing that. All right, and KM, you're last, but I want to know more about your library space and the week of wellness activities. So tell me what some of that looked like.
For the library event, we just set out a lot of games on the table. We knew that the library was a safe space for some students. They felt more comfortable there. Though our first choice was the lunchroom. We thought if we put it there, it was like maybe too loud. So we chose the library. We knew that some kids would go there to like spend their time, to hang out with their friends, or some kids who just want to be there to study. We wanted to find those kids who wanted to study. We know that they would probably be under stress or want some time to like, like take some time away from studying. We wanted to find those kids. We also learned that students really liked that they had a place to come and like, play games and everything. One thing that students really wanted was to make bracelets. We made a poster like, oh, you can come and like make bracelets, like friendship bracelets. Even one of my teachers was like, you can make me a friendship bracelets. But like, we didn't have the material. So some kids were like, maybe you guys should do this event more. So hopefully by next year, we want to make that event more. Do you have anything to say?
And so for one of our QR codes, so we understand like this summer kids are trying to find jobs and stuff like that. They want to work early. So I connected with one of the teachers that worked in the library that is in charge of important information and access for kids to go to when it comes to financial, jobs, and other stuff. So I created a QR code for a bunch of our classmates to find jobs, and they're free, literally. So I thought it'd be a good experience for them to start early, like not rush anything, but as in engineering, some things that are like out of their comfort zone, like jobs that are near their area, like outwards more, so they can have more experience.
Awesome, thank you so much. Those are the questions I have. I know we still have a little bit of time, so dare I open up, or Mr. Vela, you have some questions?
I'd like to turn it back over to Ms.
Yeah.
Hamilton to lead us through the next portion,
Yeah.
which is our question.
So we had talked about at a space in our prep time with young people about talking about this question, but given the amount of time, I also just want to open up and kind of throw it back to y'all. If there's anything else, like in hearing other presentations from the other schools, ideas that came up, maybe some ideas that you've just had, anything that you want to share that's on your mind about maybe something you want to explore to doing, maybe partner with another group next year. I think we can spend the rest of the time for you guys to offer any final thoughts to the space. The stage is yours.
So I had something about the Zen spaces and spaces to just like relax and just calm down. So I know this year we've done some beautification projects at Kentridge, like adding couches to the library, and also next year we're gonna add a makerspace with 3D printers and paper and like supplies to work on school projects. We're also adding a charger's charger, like a little corner in the lunchroom, and that is gonna have at the airport when you have those charging stations, right? So in the corner of the lunchroom, we're gonna have an area like that with some couches and plants and just like a little chill area for students to hang out during lunch. I'm not sure how that would work during school hours, but we. Right, but definitely during lunch. And then also we opened up, so through COVID, the courtyard got pretty like grown over.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. So our sophomore class took over the courtyard, and it's open right now. It's like a little Zen garden.
Yeah.
So we have benches and tables for students to hang out during lunch, and maybe even do some homework if they want with the tables. So we have been trying to create more spaces for students to calm down. It's like, just relax.
Yeah, because I think definitely there was a problem like at the beginning of the year and still right now that like kids are going to the bathrooms like Kent Lake was saying, like to like stay there and to like kind of hide away. And so I think next year's looking really hopeful, but it's because that like Mr. Barry's room, he's one of our teachers and he's wonderful, and like his room was a great place that students could go to, but it's still only this small when you look at like the whole school. So I think next year it'll turn out really well. Yeah.
I also remember too, like, I know you guys are doing a multicultural night, so I'd love for you guys, if you have one opportunity to share and tell the board maybe a little bit more about what's gonna happen at that night, since it's the first time. And then we'll go over to.
So basically, we're just gonna do like, we're gonna have like games, food. We're gonna have like a hallway of stuff. Like, we're gonna have storytelling, art gallery. We're probably gonna display some student art and some work.
Awesome. I think Evelyn, did you have your hand up? Yeah, go for it.
I think one thing that's really important is like how Ken was saying is like the trust between students and teachers can sometimes be a little iffy. So our team kind of discussed and talked about how a lot of these issues can help be resolved by students helping other students. Like, for example, bathrooms. We've noticed that a lot of younger classmen, freshmen and sophomores, are going skipping and doing fighting, baking and all that. So we thought that if we have some upperclassmen kind of guide, kind of put their foot down and be like, hey, this is not cool, let's go, and give them the support too, almost as kind of a bigger sibling approach. It might help, because we also did like a student-led session where we brought in people, we recruited people, and we talked about bathrooms, and it was all student-led. And we were able to configure a lot of good ideas and a lot of truthful, raw, genuine ideas and responses from students that most likely would have been generated if there were just staff, which it's just kind of like a sense of trust. Doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad thing that sometimes students don't feel comfortable with teachers. It's kind of like what you more relate to, you probably want to talk more about that instead, with them instead.
One thing that we talked about a little bit after looking at some of the data that we gained from the circles was trying to find a different way to use our conc time period. I know everybody has the advisory periods, and in most schools, they don't work very well. No matter what we do, all the creative ideas that we have, there are a lot of issues with them still. So, I mean, we have some ideas for how we can change what we do with that time, but we do know that there are some contractual issues there, and so we're working with Dr. Ketover on finding ways to use it in a way that we feel will be more effective and that will go over better with our student body so that they can be more efficient and effective in these time periods without messing with teachers' contracts. So.
I have something to add on to the thing about the bathroom, like the older sibling approach. I think that's a great idea to set the precedent by the upperclassmen, being like, don't just like waste your time in the bathrooms, because I noticed that at Kentridge too. I mostly hear of and see like underclassmen, like mostly freshmen and sophomores, like using more of their time in there, because a lot of the juniors are just stressed out and trying to like, get that grade. And the seniors are, going through senioritis, so they're just floating through. But it's mostly the underclassmen.
You're not wrong.
And then the thing about the conch time or advisory time, I think this may have been a thing a few years ago, but one of my chem teacher was telling me about how a few years ago that they had like interest-based advisories. So each teacher would take an interest like rock climbing or chess or something, and whichever students from any grade who were interested in that could go to that room and learn more about it. And I like that idea because if you're engaged and interested in something, then you're gonna learn more and like you're gonna be better at it. So I know that there are like issues with teacher contracts, but that's something to like explore.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were thinking about doing, as well as having like little study sessions open with teachers. So if somebody needs help with something, instead of trying to carve out time after school or before school and trying to find rides and stuff like that, they can make time on Wednesdays to go visit those teachers and try to work some things out and be a little bit more productive with the homework and kind of things.
Yeah, because we did stop the activity bus, because I know that was a thing during middle school before COVID. And then also, yeah.
It's like a conversation we had or something.
Well, and I think definitely like advisory have been kind of put on the back burner because like talking to some of the seniors, like there's like these advisory lessons that are really boring. And so talking to them, it's been like the same advisory videos every year. Like it's the same template and it's like the literal same exact words on the PowerPoint. And I think it's because of COVID, because they had these before, and then during COVID, I think teachers were focused more on getting students through like their education rather than advisory, and so it was the same advisory videos, and then they came back and it's the same advisory video, and then you come back this year and it's the same advisory video, and it gets boring and it gets drawn out too long, and so it's definitely been put on the back burner, but I think it's looking more hopeful.
I wanted to quickly add on to that.
Yes.
So with the advisory thing and how she was mentioning the templates reused, we took the question that we researched into to my leadership class and some feedback in their little mini circles besides ours. They said that instead of trying to renew the old culture that happened before COVID, we should be adapting and creating new culture to fit our generation, because we're very different from previous generations. Different is one word. And also we in our advisory, I don't know what you guys do, but we use it for high school and beyond plan. It is stretched out for 4 years, all 4 years of your high school, but it literally takes 30 minutes to finish.
I'm a senior. I just finished it right before prom tickets went on sale. It takes 30 minutes. It takes 30 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah. And also,
Noted.
High School Beyond Plan doesn't actually have all of the things on there that you may be interested in. Like, I'm pretty sure the school that I wanted to go to before I committed to U of A wasn't even on there. My major, neither of them are on there. So it's like, it's not really benefiting people who have plans. Anyways, that's a different topic.
That's why we love a continuous cycle of improvement. That's what those are for. So first, so I just want to say thank you to all of you, and thank you for sharing. And I think all the right people are in the room to hear you and to take action on what you've expressed and to share and to partner along the way. We're going to be releasing some more information in the next few weeks about what design teams are going to look like next year, what other opportunities there's going to be to continue to grow and build your leadership and expand further into your classes. But on behalf of myself and Tierra, and I think for all of those that have helped support you guys, we're incredibly proud of you and so grateful for you being here today and the work that you've done to really push and advance us as a collective district and not just within your school. It's having impact in school buildings that you maybe have never even stepped foot in. So truly thank you for that. And I'll kick it over to Israel.
And I just wanted to lastly to the students, thank you. You see up here a board superintendent governance team. That's a team that's here to support you. And so we look forward to the future as we continue to hear from you and build community with you. So thank you again. we do have, I know, a picture we want to get.
Yep, we're gonna try and take a picture.
Before we move into our other
Regular meeting.
sessions. So President Bennett, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, a couple things, then we'll do the picture. One, I know this is gonna happen, but listening to us off script, I think you all need to talk to each other more. So I'm hoping that's something that's gonna happen, because I feel like you all are gonna get ideas off of each other. So
We
I'm
always
hoping-
make a group chat at the end of these
Yes.
things.
In person too, because I want stuff to happen. And I'm hoping as we move forward talking about the importance of student voice, that budget and activities that will be reflected in that as well. If students are gonna be doing things, we need to make sure that we're supporting them, the things like the Zen rooms and things like that. I think all the schools should have that. But anyway, so do we need to adjourn first, or do we take the photo first? What do we do?
I don't know how that
Adjourn
works.
and then take the photo, then
Okay, so we're gonna adjourn at 6 o'clock. We're gonna do a photo, and then I'll come back and talk about what we're gonna do next.
executive session.
Yeah, okay.
Perfect.
So we're gonna adjourn our work session and take a photo at 6 o'clock.
You guys are
Wasn't that amazing, everybody? So at this time, we're going to adjourn into an executive session for approximately 30 minutes. The purpose of the executive session is to evaluate the qualifications of applicants for public employment and to discuss with legal counsel potential litigation and the legal or financial risks of a course of action. And we'll see you at approximately 30 minutes. We might be a little bit later than our 6:30
Thank you.
time,
Have
but
a great rest of your
30
evening.
minutes. Thanks, everyone. visitors. Individuals with items for the board or superintendent must provide the items directly to safety services staff. Approaching the dais during the board meeting is not allowed. Any items turned in will be provided to the board and superintendent following the meeting. Those wishing to comment must complete a comment card and turn it in either before the meeting starts or no later than the beginning of the legislative update. No cards will be accepted once this report has begun. Visitors who have completed a comment card indicating a desire to speak to an agenda item will be called during that portion of the agenda. There's a brief delay in the live stream audio. We'll allow for extra time for you to make your way to the boardroom if you are in an overflow room. When it's your turn to address the board, please state your name at the beginning of your testimony. Public comments will be heard after the opening preliminary communication from the audience, at specific agenda items, and during the final communication from the audience. Students will, of course, be the first to speak on any topic. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. You will hear a timer when your 3 minutes are up. Please do not use specific names of staff or students or personal identifiable information. Abusive public comments personally directed towards staff or board members will not be tolerated. The president may interrupt or terminate an individual statement when it is too lengthy, obscene, or irrelevant. Per board procedure, written material to provide board members with background information should be submitted to the superintendent's office at least 1 week in advance of the meeting. I'm now going to invite Director Farrer to read our land acknowledgement.
We acknowledge we are gathered upon the ancestral lands of the Muckleshoot Indian tribe who historically lived throughout the area between Cascade Mountains and Puget Sound.
Thank you so much. I'm now going to invite or ask Superintendent Vela if there's any changes to the agenda.
Thank you, President Benno. There is one change to the agenda. A supplemental personnel report will be added to the consent agenda as item 6.17.
Great. I will now ask for a motion to include 6.17 into our agenda.
I move that we add item 6.17 to our agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of adding 6.17 to our agenda, raise your right hand and say aye.
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 All those opposed, say no. There's not, and no abstentions. Awesome. All right, so we are moving on to 2.0, communication from the audience. We'll have public comment for up to 30 minutes. Do we have any? I'm sorry, I am out of it today.
It's okay. I will turn it over to Ms. Antella to share with us what we have for cards and if there are any online comments as well.
Well, good evening, President Benno, members of the board, and Superintendent Vela. There are no cards received as of this time. However, there were three online comments, non-specific to agenda items turned in. So at this time, I can go ahead and get started with those.
Thank you.
The first comment was submitted by Allison Riley. Good evening, board and Superintendent Vela. In the last few months, we've seen millions reallocated from or taken out of both the 2016 bond and 2018 levy contingency fund. As the public listens to presentations, cross-checks information from prior presentations, reaches out to neighboring cities for information, and reads through public records requests, it's hard to believe the board is following through with one of its primary responsibilities, which is to oversee the budget. As it stands, the board cannot clearly identify what it's committed to taxpayers to in regards to the properties purchased with the money reallocated from the 2016 bond. Over $3 million is being used for a sidewalk that should have already been in place, or transportation should have already been provided to ensure River Ridge student safety. Canyon Ridge was promised to be completed under its $8 million budget, yet tonight the district is coming to you for an additional $2.5 million. Millions and millions approved for projects that are presented with urgency or as immediate needs. Where is the planning and foresight needed to steer such a large district forward? I'm not saying these projects will not eventually meet student needs. I'm questioning the process or processes that seem to be missing to spend money responsibly and with foresight. Planning is an integral part of fiscal responsibility. Overseeing the district's fiscal responsibility with its large budget is the board's responsibility. Please publicly demonstrate this oversight power and help voice community concern over project planning and budget concerns. The next comment was submitted by Joe Riley. Good evening, board members and Superintendent Vela. In a recent weekly board update, it was stated that there are a number of reasons why people chose to vote for or against the 2023 bond, and that the district will work to survey the community and analyze the data in order to lay out a new plan for a future bond. I oppose the bond for one reason and one reason alone: a lack of transparency and accountability among the board and district. I did not oppose the bond amount. I did not oppose the specific projects. I continue to oppose the bond because in March, the board reallocated $5.6 million from the 2016 bond with the promise that none of those projects would be affected. Then in April, it was stated that some of those projects would be affected due to cost increases. Then in May, the board approved the use of another $3.5 million from the 2016 bond contingency fund. I still have not seen any data around how the 2016 bond and 2018 levy projects are being adjusted, or how much those adjustments are saving, even though it was stated in April that a list would be available. I continue to oppose the bond because in October 2022, the district stated confidently that it would renovate the new middle school with less than $8 million that was requested. Yet tonight, there is an agenda item to take another $2.5 million from the 2018 levy for that renovation. There is no supporting information regarding estimates, bids, or contracts. And even if the district does supply that information tonight, it's listed under discussion and approval, which means the expectation is that it will be approved tonight. I'm sure the discussion tonight will focus on a sense of urgency, since the school needs to be ready by the fall, just as it has for several previous votes in the last year. And that focus will continue so long as the resolutions continue to be approved with zero accountability. At what point will the board exercise its budget oversight to ensure that promises made are promises kept? At what point will the board work to increase transparency rather than hiding behind executive sessions and public records requests? At what point will I be able to support a new bond with the district, which the district desperately needs, with the confidence that the money will be spent responsibly as stated? The last comment received online was submitted by Justice Phelps. Dear Kent School Board, I'm sure by now you have all seen the scathing Seattle Times editorial that was published last week regarding the failure of the KSD bond. The editorial board said it clearly, and I quote, "People told door-knocking volunteers in Kent that voting for the bond felt like endorsing the current school board, which they did not want to do." Unlike what some of you seem to believe, we did not vote the bond down because we had questions. We voted it down because we no longer have confidence in the board's ability to lead. You all have failed this community, and the fact that the bond couldn't even reach 50% of voter approval should tell you something. You all seem to forget that the bond failed by almost 12%. Let that sit with you for a minute. So, when we heard at the special board meeting last Wednesday that if the community showed up to the bond conversations, then somehow the bond would have passed, that is a laughable statement and honestly is the cheap way out of having to take responsibility for the bond failing. It wasn't just the fact that you were asking for almost $1 billion, but it was in fact that we'd lost confidence in the board to lead and to manage their one employee, the superintendent. The tone deafness of those comments really showed that the board isn't listening to the community, but we can't be surprised because when concerns were brought forward about the 2016 bond reallocation, you all just approved it without taking the time to truly listen to the community and to put the reallocation on pause. It is clear that this board no longer cares about the constituents, including the students. It isn't just the bond reallocation that caused concern among the community. It is the handling of the racist comments made by those that sit on the dais. It is a huge raise for a first-time superintendent. It is the lack of transparency from other offices. It is the level of disrespect that some district leaders have towards other elected officials when it comes to permitting process. It is the lack of planning for costs to go up. It is all of this and more that caused your community to vote down this bond. And again, it didn't even meet 50% approval rating. It only got 48% of the vote. It is time that this board and district leadership look from within, because if you don't, you'll continue to lose the community. Without the support of the community, good luck on trying to get anything through. There is additional statement to this, but it exceeds the amount allowed, so I'll post it for you to read. Thank you, and that's the final comment.
Thank you very much. We're now going to go to item 3.0, the superintendent report, and I'm going to call on Superintendent Vela to give the superintendent report.
Thank you, President Beno. I begin my report this evening by recognizing the amazing Meridian High School boys soccer team. The Royals had a historic winning season and then shut out 3 opponents at the district championships. They are the first KM boys soccer team to qualify for the state tournament in 42 years. I congratulate the players for their hard work, the coaches for their leadership, and the families and friends who have supported this team during their remarkable season. Another hardworking sports team is the Kentwood Conqueror Fast Pitch team. They are back in the Class 4A high school state tournament for the 2nd year in a row. This is the first Kentwood team to make it to back-to-back state tournaments since 2016. We wish them well as they travel to Yakima and make a run for the state championship. Congratulations to Kentwood Fast Pitch team on your winning season, and we hope to hear some great news next week. I was privileged to attend the grand opening of a new space theme park in downtown Kent, along with students from Kent Elementary and KSD staff. The opening of this park represents a long-term commitment by the City of Kent and the Kent Downtown Partnership to educate and inspire children to pursue STEM education. To further support STEM opportunities for our students, today I signed an MOU with the City of Kent. Its purpose is to create a joint plan to guide further investments and activities in career readiness and workforce development. Our goal is to increase access to opportunities for students through enhanced connections to Kent Valley employers and potential mentors in leading-edge skills. We live in an area with strong ties to STEM and STEAM industries. To that end, we allocated resources to develop a community schools team led by Carol Cleveland. Carol is a former assistant principal of Kent Meridian High School and former principal of iGrad. She is well qualified for this work and fully committed to students and their families. By engaging with our community, she's working on partnerships to foster better outcomes for all KSD students. Tonight, you will also see several proposed renewals of professional service contracts with community-based organizations. For our students to stay strong in the midst of these extraordinary times, it is important for us to continue our collaboration with organizations that support the whole child and family, regardless of race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, religion, or zip code. May is Mental Health Month, and I remain committed to continue building partnerships to support students because we are in this work together to provide a safe and healthy learning environment for our children to grow and succeed. The Kent School District has been supporting employees on their path to teacher certification through our Alternative Routes Partnership Program since 2018. Over 100 employees and guest teachers have been recipients of the Alternative Routes Block Grant, with 85 cohort members graduating and 51 of these graduates currently serving as teachers in the Kent School District. Congratulations to this year's graduates, who I am told are excited to continue serving in the Kent School District in their teaching roles. I want to give a shout out to guest teacher Jim Noddings, who took a 7-week guest teacher position late in the school year and made an immediate and immeasurable impact on students. From strong structures and routines to supporting students to achieve their best, Mr. Noddings stepped into the gap to serve. We are fortunate to have Mr. Noddings and guest teachers like him dedicated to supporting students and staff. to recognize our guest teachers, guest paraeducators, and guest clerical staff, HR is hosting a first-ever recognition on June 20th here in the boardroom to thank them for their service. In my role as superintendent and in the spirit of continuous improvement, my executive cabinet and I remain diligent and intentional in ensuring our work continues to reflect our priority initiatives with an emphasis on teaching and learning. One of our priority initiatives is the finalization of the revised KSD strategic plan, which will guide our focus over the next 4 years. I want to thank our labor partners for attending the superintendent's cabinet last week to review the latest draft of the strategic plan. We were able to provide feedback about each revised goal, commitment, and indicators. At the end, after all 4 areas were reviewed by everyone, the team collected results for potential discussion and inclusion before finalization. We will present the final plan in June. Throughout the 2022-23 school year, I have continued to evaluate the efficacy of our current systems of support. I will be implementing a reorganization which includes adjusting the capacity of current and future leadership roles and teams to more effectively meet the needs of our students and to better align support systems with a revised strategic plan. I want to end by recognizing our Director of Health Services, Lindy Barron, who was named Educator of the Year by the Kent Area PTA Council for going above and beyond to keep our students and staff healthy and safe. We thank her for her service, and we thank the Kent Area PTA Council for their dedication to supporting our schools. Thank you, and this concludes my report. That was for you, Lindy, not me.
Yes.
Thank you, Superintendent Vela. We're now going to go to 4.0, which is the legislative update. But as I said at the beginning, this is the part, if you want to speak in public comments, this is the last time for you to submit your comment cards so we can hear you. So before I turn it over to Director Hamada, then we're going to go ahead and close that for public submission. And President Hamada, oh, not President, Director Hamada, legislative update.
Well, you might be surprised, but I don't have a lot to say tonight because a lot of the measures, of course, that we brought forth where we made some strides in Olympia passed. Again, I'll be anxious to really see how those dollar amounts and all those programs roll out in the fall to see how it really does help our district a lot. In the interim, in the 6 months, I hope to be meeting privately with our legislators and reps to try to work on some of the issues, particularly in our district that we want. And I'm hoping our directors are all looking at the WASDA platform, studying that, letting me know what they want to do going forward on that, and how our particular issues should, merit getting behind those in particular. So that's pretty much what I have tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Hamada. Let's go ahead and go to 5.0, which is discussion and approval. We're going to start with 5.01, third reading and approval of policy 1210 on the annual organizational meeting. Do I have a motion?
I move that we accept 5.01, third reading and approval of policy 1210, annual organizational meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or questions?
There was going to be some equity language added to that. I just wanted, is there, do you know?
Yeah, I'd like to invite
Right.
Miss Holly to come up and share if that was done.
May I add a comment while she's walking up? Walk slowly. I just like to make the comment out there that we tend to go through these because we've gone through them many
Multiple,
times. And so there's questions that we have already had. So for all of our people who are watching, thank you for watching and listening. And this is a process that we have gone through as a board over many weeks and readings on all of these items.
All of this, yes.
Good evening, President Benno, members of the board, Superintendent Vela. Director Farah,
Yes.
I don't believe this is the policy that had the equity piece in it.
Oh, yeah. My bad. Right.
We had some others, but not this one in particular.
Yes. 2190, that was the one.
We good?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Don't be sorry. We always ask questions.
We can add
That's what we-
equity into anything.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Other questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of 5.01, third reading and approval of policy 1210, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Any abstentions? None. And so carries. 5.02, second reading and approval of policy 2108, learning assistance program.
I move for the adoption of, oh, I lost it here, just a second. Sorry, 2108 Learning Assistance Program.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of 5.02, the second reading and approval of policy 2108, learning assistance program, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And no abstentions. 5.03.
I move that we accept 5.03, second reading and approval of policy 2190, highly capable programs.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion or questions?
Miss Holly. Now you can come back.
Language has been added
Okay.
in this policy. It's redlined. I can go grab it and read it word for word, but we did add several diversity pieces in this
Nice.
policy.
I'll ask you later where that is, so.
No, I'm happy to grab it now. We can,
And I'm looking at it right now. The one
Yeah.
thing that I did notice that
There it is.
sorry, I thought that, I felt like my mic went off for a second, sorry.
Cutting you off.
That we talked also about other types of equity, because I see students of color, multilingual learners, free and reduced priced meals, students experiencing homelessness, and students receiving special education services. And gender was one that I brought up specifically, knowing that there's also other ones.
right, and I'm going to ask Assistant Director Baines to discuss that.
Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent Bella, President Benno, and members of the board. We did not put the gender inequality because there is no gender inequality in the highly capable program. Currently, we have 47% females and 53% male in the highly capable program.
And I totally understand that for today, but I think that the policy is what we would want to look at to make sure that we have it going forward. And so making sure that while today we're meeting that standard, I think it's a standard that we always would like to aim for.
I don't think we've had gender inequality in from what I remember in the past either. So, but if that's what the board wants, then we can go ahead and put that in.
I think it makes sense because we're writing policy for kids that are not even born. Right? So if we're going to do that, it would make sense to add that language right now so that it protects.
Yeah, what I'd like to ask is Ms. Holliday to approach the mic and also for the board to consider potentially a different option, so. Ms. Holliday.
Sure, so as long, and I'm sorry, did I misquote? You are a highly capable coordinator, is that correct? Or assistant director, okay, I got it right. We talked about this, and we would have to make sure that it's measured in some way, and we can certainly put it in if we agreed that it's possible to do, to measure, and make sure we are providing that without,
Yeah, we definitely want to move away from the quota system because it's not a quota system. And when we do identification for highly capable, we do not put gender in our identification criteria at all. It's a blind identification with students who need those services. And that's how we determine services. We definitely do something extra for our low-income students, like running the Promise Scholar program, but they still have to go through the identification cycle. We've put some pieces in place, such as an alternative portfolio for those students, which are our Promise Scholars, and our Promise Scholar program is in 5 schools, 5 Title I schools. We've kind of flipped the model. We give them access first and then identify, so they get the same kind of resources that our highly capable students get, and then we identify them through Universal Screener in 2nd grade.
And I'm still going to adamantly say that this is still necessary, because even in the blind, if you end up with all of one gender or disparate, then you have a bad test. And so you need to make sure that you're looking for that, to make sure that your testing models are equitable. Right. And so while I know this information we delivered to OSPI, in our highly capable program, what is the gender, and that information's available. So I know we already look at it. So I don't say that we're asking for something more, other than it's a test to make sure that we continue to make sure our discovery models of who is in the program is, and do not hear me say that I'm looking for a quota system, but I do think that we need to make sure that we're looking for equity. And for me, it's important.
Mm-hmm. Is there a possibility we can table this to our next policy
Exactly,
meeting?
and then,
Absolutely.
So if someone wants to make that motion, we can do that, and then we can have a deeper discussion there?
Mhm.
So
I move that we table this 2190 for the next policy reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion about the new motion to table?
I'm just going to need more clarification, because I'm kind of lost on this conversation, to be quite honest.
We'll bring it back June 21st.
Absolutely, that makes sense.
And that's entirely appropriate to table and come back,
then
and
come
just
back.
like we've done before.
Right.
It's not something we've done differently, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Point of order. When we bring this to further discussion, we can also, because there was a couple other points within this, I still had a couple questions on, and those can all be brought up in that session.
We'll bring it back in the
So it's not just that specific
work session,
section.
and we can.
Yep, thank you very much.
You can bring up it.
Does that answer your questions, Director Hamada?
No, but I'll get it clarified further. It's going to take some in-depth understanding of what they're talking about here.
We got you, though. Any other questions or discussion? So the motion is to table 5.03, Policy 2190, highly capable programs. All those in favor of tabling, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? None, and no abstentions. So we have tabled 5.03. All right, let me get my act together. Let's go to 5.04, second reading and approval of policy 3141, non-resident students.
I move that we approve second reading and approval of policy 3141, non-resident students.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Questions or discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor of 5.04, second reading and approval of policy 3141, non-resident students, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed, no. And abstentions, none. Let's go to 5.05, second reading and approval of policy 3246, restraint, isolation, and other uses of reasonable force.
I move that we approve second reading and approval of policy 3246, restraint, isolation, and other uses of reasonable force.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Questions or discussions?
We've gone through this policy over and over and over again to make sure that it doesn't have any undue use of force, because especially talking about kids of color and how the system is always against it. We went through it and went through it. So I just wanted the audience to know that it's not something that we're just brushing through, so.
I remember we asked a question, and I think it was answered in email, but can we answer it live? Because I'm not finding it in my email at this second. That the the state legislature passed something about restraint and isolation and whatnot. Was that related? I don't remember if that was related to this or not. Can you get an update about that?
Yeah, I'll start with Ms. Hawley, and she may call someone up, but I think we'll start with her.
You're correct about the email. That same evening, Associate Superintendent Heath let us know that there were no changes made to the public school student isolation and restraint law by the Washington State Legislature.
So that
was it.
That was it. Okay, cool.
It came up for discussion, but it never made it through, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Other questions or discussion? Okay, let's go ahead and call for the vote. For 5.05, second reading and approval, policy 3246, restraint, isolation, and other uses of reasonable force. All those in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no, and no abstentions. Let's move on to 5.06, second reading and approval of policy 3415, accommodating students with diabetes.
I move to approve accommodating students with diabetes, policy number 3415.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are any questions or discussions?
Well, I just want to make a comment about this because that especially type 2 diabetes is really on the rise and really on the rise with kids. All the precautions we're doing and all the things that are taken into consideration in this policy are really a tribute to our school district and our nurses and everybody that are working hard because these kids have a lot of challenges when they have these health problems. So just glad that this is a good policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Hamada. Other questions or comments? Seeing none, let's call for the vote. All those in favor of 5.06, second reading and approval of policy 3415, accommodating students with diabetes, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. And no abstentions. So this one passes. Next, 5.07, second reading and approval of policy 3420, anaphylaxis prevention and response.
I move that we approve 5.07, second reading and approval of policy 3420, anaphylaxis prevention and response.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, let's call for the vote. For 5.07, second reading and approval of policy 3420, anaphylaxis prevention and response. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say no, and no abstentions. That carries. And we'll move to 5.08, second reading and approval of policy 4215, use of tobacco, nicotine products, and delivery devices.
I move that we approve the second reading of policy number 4215, use of tobacco, nicotine products, and delivery of devices.
I second.
So moved and seconded. Any discussion or questions?
Well, I mean, the kids told us tonight that, vaping in the bathrooms. So we really, we went through this policy to make sure that that is indicated, and also the use of those pilot equipments in the bathrooms, so that if kids are listening, if that is installed, no more vaping.
I do want to point out that we just also passed the policy for accommodating students with diabetes, and part of that was unrestricted use of the restrooms. And having a freshman at Kent Ridge that is trying to find bathrooms that are now continuously getting closed, and being told, hey, this is what's happening, and will also say that she walks in and has recently, her comments were, are you joking? And I do think that we need to figure out some better ways of doing this, because kids need bathrooms.
Right.
And you need a bathroom, hopefully, so they can get back to class quickly. And I think that's what we all want to do, right? And so I think between these ones, we need to, hopefully this will get us, we've already had these policies. It's not changing, so we just need to figure out a better way of making sure that this is implemented, so our kids have bathrooms that are free of smoking and vaping.
Other comments or questions?
Just that, with our kids today, if you didn't tune into that, it was, I mean, I was aware of some of the issues that were going on in the bathrooms, but I honestly didn't know that they went in there for a Zen moment. I mean, that was kind of a eye-opening thing to me that I mean, when I went to school, I don't think I ever went into a bathroom for a Zen moment or brain fog. So we're certainly incorporating our students into our policies and listening to them. And I'm learning each day from them and coming up with these solutions. And if that new pilot works in these bathrooms to have more access for our kids, great. But anyway, I'm glad to see our kids are so involved in these issues that we adults are involved in. Just
Thank
a comment.
you. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I agree.
Yeah.
Any other discussion or questions? If not, let's go ahead and call for the vote on 5.08, second reading and approval of policy 4215, use of tobacco, nicotine products, and delivery devices. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, no. And no abstention. Motion carries. And that takes us to 5.09, new middle school, now known as Canyon Ridge, renovation, additional funding.
Yes.
I move to approve 5.09 new middle school, now known as Canyon Ridge, renovation additional funding.
Is there a second?
Second.
And I'm sure there's some questions and discussion, so we're just gonna get ready for that.
Yes. So the three items that I came to find out about, for me, one, the asbestos abatement we have to do. The second, the third one too, I'm trying to, help me out.
Yeah.
What was the
Water
third?
retention
Synthetic.
under the.
Yeah.
Not the field, the
The principal walked through it.
Walk
It was
through the
hired.
fencing.
Yes, there was,
security.
security badges, fences.
right.
Yeah, we got to have that, right? And we know that part of being an educated person is knowing that sometimes you have to be able to be flexible and make changes along the way. Like, I'm fine with both of those, I really am. I'd like to find out more about the field and what other options we have, what happens if, with these funds for the field and the water retention, and how does this impact any other projects that we have going forward?
Thank you, Vice President Margill. It was access points, the other one that you were
The
talking about.
badging it, right?
So I'd like to first call up Associate Superintendent Dr. Wade Behringer to start off, and he'll decide if he needs further information from Mr. Buzzard.
Okay.
Good evening, President Benno, members of the board, Superintendent Vella, Ms. Zantello. Appreciate the question. I'm glad we had an opportunity in our 2x2s to kind of go into detail on some of these pieces, but not naive to the fact that there may be some additional questions or different elaboration from those that are on our team. So at this time, I'd like to bring up Dave Buzzard, our Executive Director of Capital and Facilities, to answer your question specifically about the field.
Thank you, Dr. Behringer. President Benno, members of the board, Superintendent Vella.
Sorry, if I may, I just wondered, Vice President Margill, if you repeat the question, that would be great. I believe you mentioned.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
so, again, to go through the three items, that, for me at least, I'm great with, we have new leadership in there, identified the badging, how the access points are, making the school feel safe for our students. I'm great with that. I'm great with asbestos abatement. We're good with that. What I want to know is the field, and what changed, what other options do we have, where are the funds coming from, what does that impact other projects, and because I know that there was a commitment that we're going to have a turf field at this school, but we also have commitments to the community for other things, such as our other bonds and levies and our other projects that we have committed to. So that's what I want to make sure is, how does that impact all of the other commitments that we've already put out there?
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Margill. The infrastructure of the field, the synthetic field that we did, during the pre-application design, the engineers and I we've done other projects where we did not have to have such a huge voluminous retention system. So using biopods, using other things that clean water that get filtered down to our streams that go out to our sound, perfectly normal in this Pacific Northwest. So at that point in time, the hit was a little over $1.2 million to the additional funds. We budgeted $4 million for the field. That was my budget for the field. Out of the $8 million that we had asked, $4 million was for the field. So what options do we have? If we don't want to stay with our commitment of a synthetic field, we could possibly do a grass field, and that is an option. The grass field would take, I don't have a ROM for that, and I don't want to give one. I'd actually have to have that, but I know that our grass fields at Meeker and Cedar Heights and Matson just recently, somewhere around $2.8 to $3.2 million. So for another $1.8 million, you have a synthetic field that you don't have to water, you don't have to mow, that all of our students can use, not only from this school, but other schools, all year round, and with an 8-lane track. That you can have other sporting events, such as the ones that we can't have at Mill Creek currently.
Can I ask you about, can I keep going?
Sure.
Thanks. So for a grass field, if we were to, just to look at our, is there any other option that's really feasible other than the grass field or a turf field?
No, there's
Okay.
not.
So we know that now we have an A-B choice on this one because we need to have a field for our middle school.
That's correct.
And so with a grass field, if we were to start tomorrow, right, and now we're changing all the plans, we're doing everything, when would the earliest be that we would actually have that field available for students to use?
3 years. And you can't use the one that's there.
Why can we not use the ones that's
Because
there?
if you walk out there, you'll end up in your ankles.
That's bad.
Okay.
The field has ruts in it. We can't even mow it proficiently with our grounds team right now.
So is there any outdoor field space then that would be available to our Canyon Ridge students?
The front field between the top building and Canyon Ridge, which is full of molehills.
And there's not fencing around that one, I don't believe?
There is, it's 4 feet.
Okay.
But you'd have to take students out of the building and walk them there in an unsecure area outside of the 6-foot fence that encompasses the field currently.
If I could add also for the board, that having been around here a little bit and with grass fields, one of the things that we've learned, they still require retention of water. We've still, that still exists. And I think the other piece for the board to consider really is long-term impact to maintenance and savings over time. That's second. And then lastly, it is that one of our plans is to continue collaboration with use of that field with partners and other schools. Example, the turf fields that currently exist in other schools are used by other schools. Mr. Smith, our Director of Athletics and Activities, that's a chore to even just get them scheduled. So this would join that scheduling piece. So we would not have to have rainouts, and there's a schedule we could do. And then finally, middle school activities and athletics and those kinds of things that it provides us a lot of options. So I'll just add those pieces just for the board to consider.
I heard you say that that would provide an opportunity for Mill Creek to come participate in a turf field. What's going on where does Mill Creek currently do practice or activities?
So Mill Creek can actually use their field in good weather. Somewhere around the time it starts to rain and we get our first large rain event, that field is unusable.
It's overflowing.
The whole street is
It's
underwater.
all.
I know I've made jokes about a water polo team down there,
Yeah.
but that's not funny anymore.
But what you're saying is so
but
that way in
the whole
weather
valley.
cases or rain cases, it would provide.
So when you think and you look at right now, we're in the middle of a boundary, correct? We're in the middle of a 6th grade move up.
Right.
Where do you think the kids from Canyon Ridge are going to come from? They're going to come from Mill Creek. They're going to come from Meeker.
Right.
Okay, so our kids coming from Mill Creek, let's just say that they've been there 1 year and they haven't been able to use their field. They'll be able to use this field. If we continue with the synthetic field, continue with the synthetic field, we'll have it ready. It won't be ready on first day of school, but it will be ready a couple of months later because we at this point in time, we're losing time by not adding. The issue with using a turf field is that we will be able to use that. If we seed the field or try with a grass field, it's going to take, like I said, 3 years. We'd have to design it. Even if we sod it, you can't get on it for about 8 to 12 weeks after you lay sod.
Clarification also, just to make sure we're clear, there is a drainage system there at Mill Creek. The problem there is the creek.
Oh,
Thank you.
no,
That's a whole
the
different.
whole city has it. It's
Yeah.
the valley.
But I think the key here is that when it does rain, it just exacerbates the whole creek, in addition to its own drainage system.
Right.
I did have a question with that. So would we then, I mean, this is a lot of consideration. So I'm assuming that there's been practices that have been canceled at Mill Creek for sports because their fields are canceled. Would we bus them up to Canyon Ridge so they can continue to have practice?
I can share that. Actually, that would be put in a schedule that more of our schools could use and utilize. Because keep in mind that we have a home and away.
Sure.
And that's the way we utilize the schedule. For any school that it's away, we also utilize those turf fields.
So what I'm hearing is that we would have more equity with all of our middle schools for the ability to have sports programs in their schools.
That's correct.
Yes, I know Director Smith has, he and I meet quite often, and I know that his determination to, it was part of the bond as well too. You know, we're looking at synthetic fields across the district.
Yeah.
They're able to be used year round. That's in good weather and bad weather. And that's what we're after, we really are. There's a lot of other school districts have been, as a matter of fact, other school districts are actually putting synthetic fields in their elementary school playgrounds.
Yeah.
So, and then back to your point, Vice President Margell, I wanted to make sure I answered that one. So what other projects would be that we would not commit to?
Yep.
I'm not gonna not commit to any project. What I'm going to do is stay with a commitment that we're gonna use all the funding that we have currently to finish up with the 2018 levy that is for deferred maintenance. We will finish every project at a priority level that we have. That's our commitment. Now, the 2016 bond is a promises made, promises kept. Those projects will be done. But the levy, capital levy, was a deferred maintenance levy for projects that needed to be done that were not approved on the 2016 bond.
So for me, I guess, I hear that, and so here's the thing about my brain, is like, I understand that there's these pools of money from the bond and the levy of 2016, 2018, whatever. I guess for me, like, I hear that we're gonna dip into this pool, but I don't know as a board member, like, what's in those. And so hearing kind of the comments from the community and the emails I'm getting, it's like, it's true, I don't know. And I'm gonna put that out there, I literally don't know. Because it's a lot of different things coming from, oh, we're buying this property is coming from this, or we're doing this, we're transferring this. There's 2018 bond, 2016 levy, or whatever, I'm reversing those. But so like, I think what I need is more clarity, and I guess that's where I need to ask more questions, and even ask maybe our executive director of finance. Like, I need it written down, I need to see like, what's left in it, how much contingency do we have, when does it dry up, when do we have to use it by, like, and I don't know any of that. So right now, like, I hear like we need additional funds, but I feel like I'm just plucking money from the air and I don't know where it's coming from. And that's my main concern about this, where I agree we need to do it. Like, I also want to see like, what does the balanced budget look like for those? And that's not something we can answer right now, obviously, because we need to get that somewhere. But like, I feel like I need that. So, because I have a little confusion because I'm not sure what's coming from where.
Well, as we talked about in our 2x2, we shared where the money's coming from. We also talked about that once jobs are, this is unforeseen, what's underneath that ground. And so the final dot the I, cross the T budgets at the very end of where things are. These are estimates, and you see those estimates there for a reason. Even the asbestos, I can tell you, abatement, depending on how much we see and where we see it, can also grow in a cost. So part of it is some of it will come after it, but right now on the table is utilizing these dollars for the use of the unforeseen 3 areas that we saw And that's where the board is right now, so.
I guess I'm still asking for like, I'm still asking for what I'm asking for though, of like these other things that we're talking about, like bigger picture. Well, I hear that and yes, and also I feel like I need to see a bigger picture, which I'm not necessarily seeing. Right now, they're all imaginary numbers to me, and I understand that the funds and whatever are there, but I want the bigger picture too. So hopefully, I can get that at a different time. But I really want to see how it all looks. I'm sure the whole board does.
So I can offer you this, and Dr. Barringer and I have talked about this, and as a matter of fact, Ben Rarick and I have had many conversations about it. The 2016 bond dollars right now, that's promises made, promises kept. So we have those budgets, we have those numbers, we know what we need to do there. And the levy, we've pulled projects up, we've pulled projects back. We will have a forensic reconciliation of both the 2016 bond and the 2018 in the capital levy, probably in the next couple of months. What we need to do is finish up the projects that we have currently right now to know that we can finish those on budget as what we have for scope, and then from there we should be able to at least dial in a very 99.8 some percent probability that this will all be done. Now you have to understand, as we look at the 25-year, and I'll bring this up, the 25-year master plan, the master plan may actually say, you know what, we may not want to change windows down at K-Vilk. We may not want to spend those dollars in that building because we may want to, at some point in time, replace that building for another, or any building for another reason. So that's why we're redoing our priority level through the 28 or the capital levy for projects that need to be done now and projects that can move out, that don't need to be done at this point in time. Make sense?
Ish.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what I'm sorry.
And then I'll go back to as well, if I could. Okay. You have to remember, the original budget for the Canyon Ridge or the new middle school was well north of $8 million.
Right.
Yeah.
I can tell you that right now. It was, I knew this was going to be a huge ask. Even coming tonight was going to be a huge ask. But being the steward of the district's capital fund, which I have been responsible for many years, I do not take that for granted. And all of these items that I bring to the board every week, every month, every year is purposeful for our students. That's what I do.
Mr. Buzzard, looking at the community, and I've taken the time, and I know way too much about construction that I don't really want to know. In talking with Dr. Barringer and you at length, it appears our community is concerned why we keep asking for more. And to weigh this down is the actual need for two of these projects, the asbestos and the field, were not anticipated in the first go-round. And I've really talked to Dr. Barringer about this, that we couldn't do these permitting things before. When you're trying to plan a budget and know all this stuff, you're taking every precaution you can, but this request came way after the fact that wasn't anticipated by quite a few experts on the water retention and all the things in that field. And also, I learned about that with the asbestos. I said, well, why didn't you catch the asbestos? If you walk through it, well, they have a big organization that looks over our asbestos drawings in all these buildings called WARE or something like that.
AHERA.
They look at all this
HERA.
stuff, and they're experts on it, and they missed where we have to remove asbestos. So it's not like Dave Buzzard is going out and deciding, oh, he missed this. No, it's the people, the experts in the field came to us and told us, no, you've missed something else. So those two things, even though I don't like things to cost more and more, even though every time I go to the grocery store, it costs more and more. Every time I go out to eat, it costs more and more. Inflation and stuff like that. I can understand it. I understand that. And the only thing that I think which we're doing, which is good, is we listen to our principal in the walkthrough of those people that are going to use that building, and they wanted more security we didn't, you know, in the original plan, and my gosh, we want the best security for our kids. All we have to do is turn on the news, and if we can help in any possible way prevent that, then we're gonna step up with the money to do it. So initially, I think people don't understand that there's so much after the fact that you can't budget in, and it can be a large dollar amount, and it can be a lot to swallow. But all the conversations I've had with that and investigating this, because I'm not just sitting up here writing checks, you know, by saying, okay, I vote for that. I feel that our staff has done a competent job and is very professional in the way they've handled it, and things have come up. And another thing, we need to learn to be fluid, because things can change, like you said, in a master plan. The other thing that I want to bring up too is a lot of people have said, you know, why didn't we build a whole new building for these middle school kids? Why are we putting them in there, you know, and just, but this field that we're going to invest most of the dollars in is going to be an important part of that project, because I've been at that school. I've been there for 7 years with a nonprofit, and I know the improvements that you make in that field. I know all the athletic organizations, the amateur ones that were out in those fields, that did work in those fields even though it wasn't very great, and the track and everything else. This is going to be a top notch when we get done, and I think we owe that to those kids, to feel like they're going into a school that we've tried in our very best to make as modern as we can. So I appreciate that, and I think that's important to digest that we are trying to do our very best. And I appreciate all the time that you and Dr. Behringer and all the people on the staff have put into that, so thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to, I mean, the way I understand bonds and levies, it's not a hard dollar that is in our bank that we're just drawing. It's just we're selling a bond, and then that, if I'm not a financial person, but that is how I understand it. So therefore, we don't have to use more than we need to, because the citizens of the district had approved, said, hey, you guys can go ahead and be able to sell, because we have, as an organization, a bond that we can then sell it to people, that then we can get that amount so we can do our projects. That's the limited amount of financial understanding I have. What I wanted to know is that 2.5, I know you put in some cushion, but is that enough, or are we gonna see you come back and say, I need more money because, and I know construction, right? There's always change order. Always change order. So I'm just curious to find out. And also, another question is, how much of that 2.5 is towards the field? And to be honest, in this Northwest, having a grass field, as a soccer player, I hated it. And I can tell you with that synthetic, it's just, you know, heaven on earth, and whoever invented it should be. So I just want to know how much of that is, you know, for that synthetic, and is the 2.5 enough?
So I appreciate that question, and I stood here very confidently saying I was going to become under budget for $8 million.
Yep. Yes, I remember that.
So I will tell you this. I will go back. Most to all of the contingency, with it being more than $8 million, this was my contingency. This was our contingency.
Right.
I pulled this 2-something million out of it because I didn't want to spend any more of the district's funding that I had to, that I thought we could, by my engineers talking with me, by having some good value data that projects such as this that we've completed for putting in new bathrooms, new flooring, new carpet, new painting. We had some really good numbers. So with that, I don't want to say I'm confident. I'm hopeful. Let's use that word.
Right.
I am hopeful that this is it. I have built cushion in for this.
Right.
And just so that you know, we have a grade and fill permit, and we are moving dirt because we can start to clear and grub whether we do grass and or synthetic. And we're hopeful that when we get the city's final commitment of the retention, because right now it's the whole retention. If we can get the city's final retention numbers to come back with that final permit, I look at this number to go way down.
Wow.
I do not want to spend all of this money. That's not my goal.
Right.
And this is not a want. This is a need for our kids. This is a commitment that we made as a district, as a board, and as myself.
Fair. I mean, again, I go back to, we have a lot of commitments to a lot of people.
We do, and they have to become in priorities.
Yeah.
The priority is the big one.
Yeah. So a couple, sorry, first how long is the field gonna last?
With synthetic,
Yes.
we're looking, well, the field itself and the track will last probably 20 years because it will not get the use that French Field gets. If you think French Field, we're basically building French Field 2.0. It's the same field, 8-lane track, all synthetic, high-grade synthetic that we're starting to use right now. Most synthetic fields last about 15 years, but this field is not going to get the use like French Field is going to get. I mean, that has sports, play, multiple use, I mean, heavy, heavy use. Will this one? Yes, but we're using a new product now from Shaw Sport, and they're looking at somewhere between 20 years to be able to get a G-Max out of it. That is the compaction that we need for safety, and they're looking at 20 years.
Okay, and the retention systems, the upkeep on those ones?
Minimal, and they are forever. They are an the ADS chamber that is actually buried underneath the field in pea gravel, and you can clean those systems out very well. If you do a grass field, why do you think we have to keep tearing up our grass fields? Because our under drainage gets clogged with roots, with debris, with fine particles, and that's why we have to keep tearing up and redoing our grass fields.
Okay, so those were my kind of technical questions that what I'm still struggling with is the idea of, we're asking for the money today, but in a few months we'll tell you what our balance sheet looks like. And that's what I'm still struggling with that, because for me, I have a checkbook. And Mr. Rarick talked about that we can think about our different funds as like different funds that we have, and one of them being our checkbook, right? And, but this one's a really important one because it's all of our taxpayers' one. So we gotta look at it. And it's really hard to approve more money without knowing what the balance in your checkbook is. To me, that's like going to the ATM because you still have an ATM card in your purse, and that, assuming that means that there's money. And so it hurts my heart as a banker to say that. So how can we get to the point where, and I'm not looking for exact dollars. Again, I also work with home equity loans all the time with people, and we do the best that we can to come up with the dollars that we think it's going to be, and that's why you make a contingency fund, right? Because we know that things are going to cost overruns, but you don't know where, you don't know what you're going to uncover. That's part of the planning, and good planning, which we've done, is have a contingency fund. Totally get that. But we still should be able to go through today and say, here's all the projects, this is where we think they're at, this is what we think that we're going to be able to do, and this is by when. And I feel like that's something that we should do before we approve more money. Is this where?
That's where I was going.
That's what I'm struggling with.
Again, this money is the contingency. This is money so I don't have to come back to the board every month and ask for money. We are over budget right now on the school. I can tell you that right now. For Canyon Ridge, we were going to be over $8 million. If I need to bring a detailed report back, I can do that. But I'm going to have to do that for every time I need a change order. Is that the way? Is that how we? And I can do that. But I don't think that that's productive in any way.
No,
and again, I'm not asking any money that's not spent will be brought back.
And again, that's not what I'm asking for in this one. I totally understand that things go over in the line items, and I trust that we're doing a really good job of trying to mitigate those costs. I'm trying to look at the levy funds that we had and the bond funds and say, hey, this is where we're taking money from, right? Because there's not new money coming up. What are all the projects that we expected to do, and are we still looking based off of estimates that they're all going to get done? And we would just like to have some type of documentation where we can see what those promises were, and here's where we expect them to happen, and that in the end, that that budget line balances.
I would like to at least make sure that when we talk about the 2016 bond and the capital levy, let's make sure we compartmentalize both those, because those are two totally different funds. They have two totally different mechanisms. The bond is the bond. Those projects have to be done to the community. The levy funds are for deferred maintenance for priority levels. So we as a district can say, if let's just say a boiler, or let's just say some catastrophic event happens at a school, and we don't have, either the insurance won't pick it up, we would take the remaining funds from a capital levy and do that as a capital project. And then everything else from that would say, okay, that's a deferred maintenance item, we'll put that on the next levy. That's how the capital levy system works.
Is there something that I can do to help explain what I'm looking for?
No, I know what you're looking for. You're looking for a balance sheet. You're looking for a balance sheet of exactly.
Here's all the different projects that we were hoping to do. This is what we think that they are. Here's a little bit less funds for doing that. So, okay, we're not gonna be able to maybe get to these ones based on today's prioritization. Again, we can only go with what we know today, and we can only go with based off of the estimates that we have. But what are we giving up? Because we have to be giving up something, because we're going to use all of those funds.
So let me try and see if I can't get the board to consider a next step. Kind of with President Benno, and then part of what you're asking. President Benno, you asked, so just what is it that we're going to be spending this money on, and what are we getting from this? So one idea would be to come back to you with that, what you see up here, the 2.5 specifically, what that's going to be, what are the costs for each one of those areas. So that's one. In addition, what I hear you saying, Vice President Margell, is can you also give us a 2016, keep those separate, 2018 bond, so we can just see where we are. We understand that, so those are two separate pieces. So I'm just kind of proposing something for the board to consider that my team could come back to you with, and with more of a breakdown. So in summary, breakdown of what those the $2.5 million, what specifically and how much and so on, because you also heard it could be less, right? But at least we could break that down. That would be for President Benno. And the other one was related to the bonds. I won't repeat that, but my team can come back with kind of those buckets, if you will. Would that be something the board would consider? I'd like to hear from the rest of the board as well.
I mean, what I would say is, I understand sometimes it is not, in my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, but it's not feasible to actually have a hard dollar and say, hey, this is what amount of money that we got from Capital Bond 2016, and this is the amount we have, and that's it. So if that is the case, then yes, we need that balance sheet. But I think that it is a bond that we have, that we as an organization can sell it and then be able to get it from the bank, the amount of money that we need to do our projects. So if what I'm saying is not right, I need a correction from.
And again, the Canyon Ridge does not fall underneath the 2016 bond. It falls underneath the capital levy, which is a deferred maintenance levy. Correct. And we get those revenues in from taxpayers.
And is that a hard dollar that we got from the taxpayers, and they said, we give you, I don't know, maybe $300 million for you to do that deferred maintenance?
It is a fluctuation of whatever revenue we accept or get in April and in October, usually 2 times when you pay your taxes.
From the
community.
But
I understand what you want. We could definitely come back on the next. We can definitely come back to the next board meeting, and I can do a forensic reconciliation of the bond, both and levy, or we can just start with the levy and show you kind of where those project budgets are for the remaining projects, what we have still on the balance sheet, and what we can go moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very much for this. Like, I want to. I just want to go in with eyes wide open, right? Like, just like in your house, you're given a certain budget to renovate your house. Dang, I have to do something really boring like sexy boilers. And I got to do something with that. And you know what that means? You don't get the picture window.
Sure.
And so you have to make those balances. That's how I equate it to is my house. Now, this is much bigger, right? And I understand that, but there still is that balance, and I just want to know, what is it that we're giving up?
And then to be clear, then the other portion, so we talked about the levy and those projects, the prioritization that we can come back, was the 2.5 and a little more of a breakdown on specifically the access points in those areas. Again, still some variables within that because we may see something else in the asbestos piece, but there may be a savings there, but to the extent we can, we'll come back with that as well. So.
Thank you.
Consideration for the board to table until that time my team comes back with that information and move ahead.
Motion to table item.
Quick question.
Oh, sorry.
If we table this today, is that going to delay the work?
I can still have the field crew continue with their clearing and grubbing, which is part of the original grade and field. So yes, but we would need to make a decision by next week.
No problem.
Or the next board meeting, I would say, for sure.
Cool.
Well, I have a pretty good in my head where this 2.5 is going. It's pretty clear. 1.2 for the water retention and some taxes on top of that, and how much is roughly is the asbestos and how much roughly is the security. So I really don't need clarification on that. I need to the penny, because I don't think we're going to get it to the penny. If my other board members want more clarification on some of the other issues, I follow those bonds and levies and 2018 pretty carefully, but I have no problem with further education from other board members.
Thank you.
I just felt like we get a lot of this, and this is the first time for me where I was just like, there's all this questions and all this stuff happening. I'm just like, wow, like there was this bond thing, there's this levy thing, there's deferred, there's so much. And so, and we make a lot of financial decisions, and today or yesterday, whenever I was kind of thinking like, wow, we really, like one of our roles is really understanding the budget of the district. And I can clearly say, I do not understand that. And that makes me feel like I'm not doing my job. So I'm very glad to hear that we're going to get something, because I just need more clarity. I know we get our monthly things from Mr. Rarick, but I just feel like I need, with this kind of stuff, which is a little bit different, where there's different pools of money, I just need better clarity on. It makes me feel embarrassed to say I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to call it out. Like, I don't know everything, so like I'm owning that, but I'm also asking for that information to be more helpful, so.
No, again, good conversation, good dialogue, and reaching to, as individuals, we are asking those questions, but as a board, we're actually acting and making decisions as a whole. So I appreciate that. I'll turn it back to you for the table.
I heard there's going to be a motion to table.
A motion to table item number 5.09, new middle school, known as Canyon Ridge renovation, additional funding.
And is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion, discussion, because this is a new motion, that's right. Discussion on tabling. Hearing none, let's call for a vote. All those in favor of tabling this to our next, did we say our next week or next board meeting? Did we clear on that? Or just in the future?
2 weeks?
Next board meeting?
June 14th.
Right.
Okay, so all those in favor of tabling this to our next board meeting, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Abstentions? We have 1 abstention and 3 yeses, so the motion carries to table to our next meeting. See, parliamentary procedure is so fun, everyone. We have a consent agenda, 6.0. I'm going to ask if anyone wants to pull anything from the consent agenda.
I'd like to pull 6.14.
Give me just 1 second.
Is that gift acceptance?
Acceptance, yep.
6.04?
No, 1.4.
Oh, sorry. 6.04, please.
Okay.
I'm good. Just 6.04.
Anything else people want to pull? Minus 604 and 6.14? Can we have a motion to approve minus those 2 items?
I move to approve the consent agenda 6.01 through 6.17, leaving off 6.04 and 6.14.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda minus 6.04 and 6.14, including 6.17, I forgot to say that. All those in favor of accepting the consent agenda minus those two, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no. And motion carries. So let's go to 6.04, OSPI Outdoor Learning Grant Application.
This is, sorry, I'm pulling it up right
Oh,
here.
can we move first? Ann?
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Move to approve 6.04 OSPI Outdoor Learning Grant Application.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, now we can discuss.
Thank you.
This is not what you wanted?
Yeah, I think this is what I want. This is fifth grade camp going forward. Yes. So what I'd like to consider in this one, I know that right now we are using, outdoor education is incredibly important, and it's kind of controlled by each of the schools when we go. I believe it could be a yes and. I know neighboring school districts use it and partner elementary schools to go at the same time as each other that will be feeding into the same middle school. And so it's also an opportunity to get to know maybe that kid at another school or see a friendly face on the first day. So love the idea that fifth grade camp has many learning objectives. How great that we could make it a yes and for being able to make that transition for our fifth graders moving into middle school that much less scary because they were in the same cabin as the person or they had, they broke bread together for a couple days. So I would just like to be able to put that out there for camp.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Seeing none, let's go ahead and vote on 6.04, OSPI Outdoor Learning Grant Application. All those in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. No abstentions, and it carries. Let's go to 6.14.
I move that we approve 6.14 gift acceptance.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion or questions?
I just wanted to really say, thank you, heartfelt thank you. This gift is $25,000 and 500 and some. Organizations that are in our community, PTA, PTSA, it's really, it touched my heart to see that amount of money they donated to get our students the help they need so that they can do the activities that they would like to do and make it so that they are a whole child approach. So I just don't want to call out one specific one, but it's really one of the ones that I wanted to thank.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Just if you want to smile, look through the different things that people are donating to. There's some really cool ones in here.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Those who are in favor, let's go ahead and vote. Those in favor of 6.14 gift acceptance, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no. And no abstention. Motion carries. And that takes us to 7.0, which is all informational. So we're going to skip on to 8.01, final communication from the audience. We have two speakers.
Can I ask before we move on for informational? I know that we moved, a lot of these are procedures that go along with, and we specifically, 7.02, I know that we tabled that. Can we talk about the procedure during our discussion that we've tabled for the highly capable program?
Yeah, the procedure is what it is right now. If there's any changes, I can just come back with the same, another procedure in the informational. So
Okay.
it's, yeah, courtesy.
If you want to make something official, we can do a motion. That's what parliamentary procedure is about. But
No, as long as, I just want to make sure that we have those, that conversation.
Perfect.
And it's informational, right? So it's basically.
Right.
Yep. Awesome. All right, now final anything else? Wait, before I move on, anything else? Yes, final communications for the audience. We have two. We're going to start with Christy Padilla.
Good evening, Superintendent Vela, President Bento, Board of Directors. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the Kent School District budget, and actually watching the discussion that just went through about a synthetic field was fascinating to me. I have never quite seen the passion and the inquiry and just the wonder from the board in a budget item. So I'm hoping that the same discussions, just maybe not in public, happen about our classrooms. In 2018, the Kent School District was in dire straits. We were below budget, and that year continuously gets brought up, and through good budgeting and strong leaders in our district, we were able to put ourselves in a place where we are clearly in good financial standing. I think if we came in $10, $15, $20 million above budget, if we overspent by that much every year, people would have some serious concerns and ask some very pointed questions. Instead, we have a budget that is coming in 10, 15. This year it'll be $20 million over budget. And every year I watch the celebration at the, when that budget is approved and presented. But as good practice. What I heard from one of our directors today say, we know we're successful when we have a balanced budget. So when we come in 10, 15, $20 million over budget, that means something was left unfunded. And if you look carefully, each and every year, we budget for a number of personnel, but we don't hire them. And that's where the majority of our overage comes from. If you listen to our budget discussions, most of the spending comes on personnel. So when you look at what's not being funded, I'm hoping you hear that our nurses aren't being funded. Our kids are going without proper medical assistance. We are underfunded in our special ed. The answer every single time is we're going to do compensatory learning at a later time, which means that currently the kids aren't getting their services. Kids in the high school, we have teachers, 19 teachers on 1.2 contracts. That means 5 less teachers. So while everybody's laughing about our bathrooms and what's happening in our hallways, it's not funny. If we had 5 more teachers in the building, we would have more supervision. We would have more security, more behavior supports, more mental health supports for our kids. And so this year, when we look at our overage, please think about our buildings that went without. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the next person is Tim Martin.
Good evening, Mr. Vela, board. I don't make it a habit of coming here and speaking. It's not my favorite thing to do. I'd rather have those conversations with you individually, where we can have a one-on-one and ask questions back and forth. And I appreciate that. Those of you who have reached out to me to get clarity, to find out what the issues are. It feels to me very pointed when discussions are being had, because you're given information that they want you to know. But you can't ask questions when you don't know. So I am here, having sat through the last board meeting where we celebrated Teacher Appreciation Week. And the whole time I sat there thinking, you don't know. Or I hope that you don't know. Because when you know, then you're obligated to do better. So my hope here today, and it's going to ring because there's more on my list than I can get through in 3 minutes, is to share with you some of the problems that this district is creating. They are unraveling and dismantling our school system. They are hurting our students, and they are hurting our staff. Because of that, people are leaving. And right now, that's what you're being told. We're going to lose kids. We need to tighten the belt because they're not going to appear. Where are they going? We're going to end up, right now, they have said, through attrition, we will lose 67 positions next year. Well, that's not going to happen, in my opinion. Our kids are coming. They were more here than they had budgeted for. The state gives you money to hire. What happens to that money? Well, we stored $11 million one year recently. We stored $14 million the year before that. The money is here. It's intended to go to our students and our classrooms. It's not happening. Some of the things I'm dealing with in my role is I sat in on one of our Teacher of the Year in a fact-finding over rumors that were unfounded. And what has happened since then? That same teacher is now, because they brought me to sit with them for support, not to interfere, but for support, they continue to be harassed in their building. Talk to me more, I'll tell you more. I sat and listened and have been listening, and I've been advocating. We have a program for newcomers to our country to learn English. Next year's plan is to dismantle that. They are taking away the supports for our newcomers that are coming here, and they're forcing them into a general ed classroom. If you know anything about the newcomer system, they begin learning English in conversation. That's important. Then it builds to eventually, at the end, having academic language. They are pulling that system away from our newcomers and putting them in the general ed classroom next year. How successful are they going to be? I have pages and pages to share, and I would love to have those conversations with you about other issues that are coming forward. But I'd like you to reevaluate your priorities and put our students and staff at the top of these lists instead of storing multi-millions of dollars that were intended for them. When we don't have opportunities in our classrooms for our students, they leave. They do leave. They go to places that they can get those. That's just running start. Instead of saving our dollars for a rainy day, which it appears you think a flood is coming. I don't see that. You have time to change this trajectory, and before more students and staff are forced to make other decisions. Let's talk.
Thank you so much. It is now time for 9.02, board reports, and I'm going to start with Director Farah.
Thank you. Today was really a special day. We've seen, and I'm going to say, I know Director Margal, really, it is poignant because they are the current leaders, but there's some part of me that really felt very comfortable seeing those kids and how they took the leadership role. And throughout the time that I visited schools, I see that, and it is very gratifying and very satisfying thing to see every time that the kids that we are having in this district and how they are so above everything that we can imagine. So for me, that was the thing that made me, and also the way that the setting was, which was not us sitting here and talking to them. It's collaborative, letting them know that we are here for them, and want to see that more and more as time permits. I know they are students and they have more priority than just to talk to adults and let them know what they need. I also want to say to the staff, thank you very much. I really appreciate you. And I know you work hard. I know you do. I can never stop saying that because for me, that's who you are. And to be quite honest, we can do so much together, and we can work together and become a better district than we are now. And it is very important for me to let you know that someone who is on this dais appreciates you. And thank you. That concludes my report.
Awesome. Director Hamada.
Well, obviously, tonight it was a highlight to be with the kids. The energy when you walk in the room was just through the moon, because that's why I'm here, is for these kids. And when you walk into a classroom or that, it reminds me of why I'm supposed to be here. And they are so gifted and so talented and so well-spoken, and it wasn't like they were reading from something. They knew what they were doing. They had this in their heads. I could see them going around the room. So it's glad, and we really have tried as a board, as a whole, to have student voice this year, and we've achieved it a lot. We have a lot more to go, but that is one thing that I like hearing. And they have some great ideas, too, and we need solutions. We have a lot of people that have issues with what we're doing, but I don't hear very many solutions. And I like to hear solutions because I don't have all the answers. I did attend the Space Park in downtown Kent, and that was fun. We took a whole busload of kids. Carol Cleveland, who I've known for some time, arranged that along with a lot of support from our district. And not only that, the kids that got on that bus that we brought in, some of the staff had to go to their homes to pick them up to make sure that was not a barrier. And if you saw those kids running around, you know, launching rockets, seeing the Star Wars characters, climbing up on the ship, and learning and enjoying, and the things that they're going to be able to use in their classrooms, to learn more about space. It was just absolutely fascinating. We need that. And the partnership with Kent and with Boeing and with the Kent Downtown Partnership shows we can't do this alone. We need a lot of people to do that. I found it very interesting that we are finalizing the strategic plan, and our board directors have been sitting kind of on some of these committees and really not there to talk a lot, just to listen. And so I was at the final strategic plan meeting and anxious to see that come to the board for fruition and see all the hard work done there. I'm looking forward to, I saw that the Kent Lake is going to have a new salad bar out there, and I'm going to go out and try it sometime because I love that idea to have a salad bar. And so I see they're going to try that out there at Kent Lake and Kent Lake High School, and so I want to give it a try. I also had a really fun day. I went to I tried to go to some of the PTA things because I've been a PTA member forever. It seems like, but I do see the great need and how PTAs can really make a difference in schools. However, as I spoke last year at the Founders Foundation, I had a conflict. I couldn't go this year, but we need to. A lot of our PTAs don't have really vibrant PTAs because the people are really, they care about their kids, but they're so busy working and stuff that they can't get together to do all these fun projects. And as I said, we've got to reinvent that somehow we've got to have more equity to help some of these struggling PTAs. And I've been up at Kent Lake, or Kent Meridian, which is a long way from where I live, but I've kind of taken them under my wing because they don't have much of an active PTA, and we've been planning this senior party, and about 3 of us have achieved quite a lot, and I don't even know if we're going to be able to have it, but because we're not getting a whole lot of kids that are signing up, but we've certainly tried, and we've gotten a lot of community input that have wanted to help the PTA there at Kent Meridian High School. So, and the people there, the kids there deserve it just like any other high school. So anyway, I went out to Lake Young's Family Night Prom, and it was quite an event. They had a red carpet that you walked in on. The kids were dressed up, a lot of them in their Sunday best, and even some of the parents. And they had their artwork that they have done through their art program out there after school. I bid on one of the beautiful things that they had accomplished. I did not get that to take home. I was disappointed, but I did bid. And then they had dancing for the kids, and it was kind of interesting. Some of the moms and dads had dressed up, looked like in their formals, actually from maybe years ago or something. They had them on, and they were out there dancing with the kids, so that was a really fun event. And I want all our schools to experience, maybe not that event, but something like that, so they can really feel a part of the community, because that's what builds strong communities. I'm very excited to go out tomorrow. I've been invited out to Pine Tree to visit Denton Thornback's special education to see what's going on out there. So I'll be out there tomorrow afternoon. He came to the board and spoke to us about some needs, so I want to go out there and see what he has to say and see what his kids are up to. From Superintendent Vella's report, some interesting things that kind of, we've been really working, our Kent educators of color have really been focusing on getting kids, our teachers, sustainable and maintainable. And our superintendent spoke about, we're applying for block grants in 2024-25 to help some of our students that are economically challenged with some of their needs trying to go to school. And they're really focusing on getting people in that program, if we're successful in getting it, to getting people who really need that and people in our community to reflect all of our community into teaching. And there's a special emphasis on special education teachers, which we strongly need. So I was glad to see that in Superintendent Vella's report. And we have kindergartners are starting to register for kindergarten. So that's kind of an exciting time for a lot of families. It was interesting to see also, I think President Bento asked about the air conditioning system in our building. And it was interesting to see that we have 50% of our buildings have air conditioning, 37% buildings have some AC, 13% have no AC, and 61% of our portables have AC, and 39% of our portables have no AC. So we want to get that changed. That definitely is something we need. We're seeing I guess I can't say climate change, but I don't know about you, but it's getting hotter in the summer than it's been when I've been here. So it looks like we really need to be addressing, that issue about trying to get some better learning circumstances with some air conditioning. And I did inquire about the Juneteenth payment, and if anybody wants some particular information about that, I have detailed information about that. And that concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Vice President Margell.
Okay, I'm going to go for 3 minutes.
Oh.
Okay. I had the opportunity to go to our a band and orchestra concert for our 5th and 6th graders last night. God bless our band and orchestra teachers. They do such a great job. And it was exciting to see. I had stepped off the dais when we approved the field trip for Kent Ridge Band and Orchestra to go to Silverwood and perform at Coeur d'Alene. They did a fantastic job. I got to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday go with, I think it's about 125 students, and they do not disappoint. And just really fun kids to be around. I also got to go to Kearson Park. Super cool. Love the partnership that we have between the business community, the local government, and then being able to participate with the school district there, and the use of technology that's at that park too. I love places that make you wonder about what can be.
I wanted to say thank you to the presentation that happened today, both with the students, but also that it has been a board priority to have student voice, and I love it coming, you can't go from 0 to 100, but it's amazing to see what has already been accomplished and getting us on the path to continuing to move out, not just to 100, but 1,000. And when you ask, you don't always hear what you want to hear, right? Like, wouldn't we all love to hear that we're perfect and wonderful in every way? We're not. But what we are open to is getting better and being on a constant path of improvement, which is exactly what we preach to our kids, and that living that as a district, knowing that we heard things from our kids that were like, ooh, we could do better at that. And I think it is great that I hear our principals and our educators and just the program all around this of let's get the voice and do something about it, because that and do something about it is key. Let's see, I'm trying to, I think that's everything, and I think I'm pretty close to 3 minutes. So I concludes my report.
I didn't check, but that sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you so much. For my report, one of the things that my students always tell me is I'm nosy, and mostly just because I ask them about like their lives and what's going on and whatnot. Maybe that's a little nosy, but I really enjoyed the students coming today and being able to just ask questions. And I know that we want students scripted so that they are following a path and they're not going off script, but I loved asking them questions and then just being able to hear their voice, not on a script, and it's so real. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'm a teacher. I love working with students, and I just love the work that they do. And so just hearing our students, we have amazing leaders in our school. Again, current leaders of now in our schools right now. I don't know, I work at high school for a reason, but even the middle school students, they're very, they have some great things going on. I was so impressed with hearing from all of our students. It reminds me of a few years ago, I went to Nova High School and did a tour because the students, it's an alternative school in Seattle, and students are embedded in every part of the building. They choose a curriculum, they are on the hiring, they help with, like, it's actually pretty amazing. Not that we're gonna be like a Nova High School situation, but I just think that students are able to be integrated in all systems of the schools and have voice. And that might be the 1,000 that you're talking about, but I think that it's not a far off vision of having just students having ownership and being a part of their school. And I know things like athletics and performances and student leadership are a piece of that, but I think that there's definitely more ways that students can participate, and we know that the students that were here today could definitely step in on anything. I know some of the Kentridge students asked if I would come and talk to them, because they asked if I had more questions. I'm like, oh yeah, I had a ton, but I only asked one. So they want to talk to me, which is great. So I'm hoping that in the future, before the end of the school year, I can talk to some of those students on the design team and just kind of talk about some stuff they're doing, which I just think is amazing. Yeah, strategic planning. Although I feel like I talk a lot in mine, Director Hamada, maybe I should talk less. But I do love being part of Goal 1 and the stuff that's going on with Goal 1. Making sure that students are college and career ready and beyond. So it's great. And it just reminds me of, I feel like a lot of our work is up here, but I think that a lot of our work could also be off of here. And so like going on committees, visiting more schools. I know that's challenging with people on day jobs and whatnot, but I feel like the stuff up here seems really procedural, which is part of the job, part of the, our legal responsibilities, but also like a lot of our work is connecting with our community and our students and our educators and staff. Upcoming, I know there's graduation stuff coming up, so I'm really excited to kind of participate where I can. Pride Month is coming up, and mostly just because I'm gay, I always bring up Pride Month. But I also think it's important because I think if you're not queer, you don't necessarily think about the contributions of our LGBTQ plus community, but I think it's an important thing to kind of talk about. And I know I've had some schools ask if I would come help with like some Pride Day activities, Pride Month activities. I'm kind of excited about that because I think that we need to make sure that all of our monthly celebrations that we celebrate, although we should celebrate them year round, but there is a month for celebrating Pride. And so that is happening, that's coming up. I was going to talk about AC, but Director Hamada talked about it. I know you talked about band and orchestra, and I know that there's some questions and concerns about band and orchestra at elementary school I think we need to talk about and bring up. And I think that's obviously not a conversation for now, but because being the board president, I get every email, and I've been responding to every email from people. Like, that's part of, I know Director Hamada was telling me, there's a lot of emails to respond to, and I'm happy to do it. But what I've learned is I don't know anything. No, I don't know everything. I don't have all the answers. And so I rely on the staff and others to give me the information I need. But I always want people to know that you can email. I'm always going to respond. I may not always know the answer or have the answer you want, but I'm committing to responding, and I track my emails, so I make sure I respond and follow up, because I think that's really important. My little spreadsheet has a follow-up button if I need to follow up. So every other day I kind of go through and sort it by like who haven't I responded to, and I tried my best to make sure I follow up. My life update, I did get into my CTE director program, so that's something that's happening. And so, people sent me some emails noticing I wasn't on the candidate filing, and that's why. And I'm not going to say goodbye until my term's over. We still have like a lot of months left. But just so people are aware, like, that's a thing that's happening, and I'm very excited for that next phase in my life of doing this program and seeing what happens beyond that. Like, CTE I've been doing that for 20 years. I love it, so I'm very excited to continue my education. I'm a lifelong learner, and will continue to do so. That's it for my report. If there's anything else for the good of the order. If not, it is 8:22, and I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for attending.